just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by Bloke Beer. Turn up for your family, mates, and a good time. Bloke Beer. It's for blokes to turn up. We are in every single celebrations, Porter's Liquor, Bottle-O, and IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. And we're also in every single celebration superstore in Queensland. We've got a store located on our website. Go there, put in your postcode. It'll show you near the stockist. Make sure to grab a case. The unofficial beer of rugby league. Oh, I'm just going to say it, the official beer of rugby league. Now, allegedly anyway. Allegedly. It's all alleged here. The unofficial official. Now, also, Bloke jumpers. This beautiful thing I'm wearing dropping next week, 6 p.m. Wednesday. Next week, 6 p.m. Wednesday. And also, Bloke trackies. Stop it. Absolutely the most comfy trackies. I wear them constantly. Most comfy trackies ever. They're going to be dropping in black and brown next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Set your alarms because there's a limited amount, guys. A limited amount. And last year, you know how quick they went. So make sure 6 p.m. next Wednesday, be there. Limited amount, and they are super comfy. We've actually even upgraded the material. They'll be the same price as last year, so $79.95. But we've actually made the material better than last year because we source it from a better person that makes higher quality garments. So next Wednesday, 6 p.m, make sure to be there. But I've got the boys here. Gurino, how are you going over the weekend, mate?
Going good, mate. Obviously backing up from the live show. There's a few less people here today.
Yeah, just a few.
What an unreal night, though.
Yeah, thank you so much everyone came. Honestly, it was absolutely incredible. Like, I don't know, maybe 500-600 of you. Maybe a bit more.
And the rest,
yeah. 5,000 of you. I don't know, 600, 700, 800. It was a lot. There was a lot of people there. Thank you so much. It was such a great experience for us to be able to say that we did a live show outside of ANZ Stadium, Accor Stadium, at the Locker Room Hotel. Usually that's reserved for your big TV shows with big budgets and all that kind of stuff. And it's just battlers doing our best out the front. But how was your weekend, Guru?
Yeah, it was good, mate. Obviously, Origin period. Yeah, NRL tends to drop off a little bit. I thought all the games on the weekend were really good. I enjoyed them all. Great to see some of these Origin guys backing up, coming back to clubland. That's where the real Origin players stand up. And fuck, a heap of them stood up, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. What about yourself, Timmy?
Yeah, good weekend, mate. Snuck up the coast with a few mates there. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Played a bit of golf, went for a little bit of a fish, settled in at the pub for a bit of Super Saturday triple header. Weekend was going fantastic. Then the Raiders got towed up against an understrength Broncos side, and I just sat there and I just had this realisation. I'm like, shit, I've got to sit with Kempy Tuesday morning. And
what a week of footy!
And listen to UK not only about the Bronx towing the Raids, but Queensland for 4 hours, and just from there it's just downhill the whole rest of the weekend. So,
mate,
I almost didn't show up.
Oh man, let me have my moment. It's been a few years. It's been a few years for the Bronx, baby. They're on top. Queensland as well. Incredible stuff. Let's get straight into it because I know people are going to be really wanting to hear what we have to think about Origin, even though, we've done some review shows, but all us together haven't done it. Guru, if you could sum up Origin 1, how would you sum it up?
Yeah, Queensland, they just managed to out-Origin us every fucking time. Pain in the arse. God, it was a tough watch. Just those little moments. The one that I know you and Smithy spoke about it, I can't believe the lack of attention it got. Val Holmes cleaning up that kick.
Oh, my God.
Like, it just had no right to be there in that moment. That's what Origin's all about. And, I was thinking all week, like, Nathan Cleary's obviously been criticised a lot. If Val Holmes wasn't there, Nathan Cleary scores the match winner, and it's a completely different narrative all of a sudden.
He's a hero. What a fight back.
Completely different. It's crazy. Some of the efforts that Cam Munster had, the one-on-one strips, and the way that he just, as soon as he dummies or falls out of any sort of structure, he's just the most dangerous guy on the field, isn't he? Like, yeah, I mean, we spoke about in the lead up to Origin that Munster, he's just in touch at the moment that we haven't seen before, and on the biggest stage, he stands up again. An incredible performance. Incredible.
I mean, talk about a big game player. Oh, my God. Timmy, speak to me. How would you sum up Origin 1 as a New South Welshman?
Yeah, look, from the blue side of things, it obviously didn't go to plan, but the smallest of changes, like during the game, and we get the result and we're not here panicking and, it's all good and all well and we're at 1-0. There's a very few minor things. Queensland, as Guru said, got up for the big moments, in particular Cam Munster, who was just the difference in that last 20 minutes when the game was on the line substantially. So I wouldn't panic if I was the Blues. Hopefully Freddie doesn't. God knows what's going to happen with that bloke. For the Maroons, I think a lot of credit's just got to go to Billy Slater. The talking point coming into the game was all these debutants, all these rookies and that, and you're sitting there going, this could go either way. And particularly Billy, as a rookie coach himself, like, he put himself up to be in the absolute firing line if that went wrong. And not only did he win the game, but the blokes he picked in, Carrigan, Cotter, were arguably the two best on the field. Cobbo held his own. All those decisions paid off, and you've just got to, applaud Billy, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I loved about the win was obviously the boys on the field, they got the win. But every selection that may have been dubious or, I don't know, is that guy ready for Origin? He's not ready for Origin. They did exactly what they were selected to do. Cotter was brought on the field to just work like an absolute workhorse, always through the middle, plugging up holes, go for 80 if he needed to. The call goes out. He has to go for 80. He just says, yep, sweet, no worries. Paddy Carrigan was brought on for his really explosive ball running and to lift momentum, changes the speed of the game. He does that. Selwyn Cobbo was brought on for a bit of magic, but also he's out of field, the back end of the field carries. He did that really well. It was such a good performance by Queensland. And it is crazy how much things can change in 6 months. I've said it a couple of times now, but if you had said at the start of the year that Queensland will come out and, really dominate most of the game against New South Wales, in my opinion, I feel like, although it ended up being close, and that was all due to New South Wales' fight at the end there, Queensland probably missed at least two tries. And so for them to come out and play the way they did with 4 debutants and players that, they 6 months ago were arguing if they should even be picked in Origin. Now all of a sudden they're playing like some of the best Queensland sides we've ever seen. In the sense of, I don't mean, would they compete with 8 in a row? I mean, they're bringing that Queensland spirit. They look like each player on the field looked like they could belong in any era of Queensland in that jersey. Whereas last year it really didn't look like that at all. I would even argue. Yeah, last year didn't look like that at all. But so this year, absolutely incredible. New South Wales, though. Where does New South Wales go from here, Guru?
Yeah, I think there will be a couple of changes. I think Tariq Sims, he'd probably be the first one that I'd look to pull out of that side. Which direction they go, I'm not sure. You've got Tyson Frizzell on the extended squad still, but geez, I said before game one, and I'm sure we all agreed that we would have had Angus Crichton in there somewhere. He's the guy that I would definitely have a look at bringing into the side, but I mean, do you go back to the well with your Tyson Brazils, your Jake Travojevic, your guys that have done it before? It's going to be interesting to see which way Freddie goes, and it could be one of many different directions, and I wouldn't be surprised with Freddie now. What's going to happen?
What do you reckon, Timmy?
One thing you said there filled me with a bit of confidence, and it was sort of the reflection I got from the game on Wednesday night, and that was that you thought Queensland dominated in most facets of the game, and I agree. I think they did. And yeah, they may have had a couple of extra tries here and there, but the Blues had their chances too. We still only got done by 6 points.
For sure.
And I think off the back of that, I take a lot of confidence, and I don't think there needs to be wholesale changes. My changes for game 2 would be the same things I had going into it, and that'd be Angus Crichton in for Tariq Sims. I'd start Cam Murray. The Addo Carr one's a tough one because I really wanted him before game 1, and I'd still bring him back in. But also Tupu was immense for us. Like, he was...
Tupu, 211 metres, 80
unreal.
close contact.
So it's like, if you're Freddie and you've picked Tupu for game 1, well, how the hell do you drop him now off that? Because he was terrific. I think the Blues tactically just need to make a few little changes as opposed to wholesale changes to their team, because I don't think the team was too far off the mark. But they can change their game plan just a little bit to bounce back and be up to make it 1-1.
I remember, like, when we were out there, we watched the game out there, and I remember thinking, fuck, like, New South Wales got so close to scoring on so many occasions, and I went back and watched it, and so did Queensland. Like, Ben Hunt bombed that try at the back end. So, going to Perth is a serious worry. I know that we've got a reasonably good record over there, but backs against the wall, Blues have to go 2-0 now. It's going to be immense.
Yeah, but, if the team can do it, it can be the team that last year won Origin by a record margin. I think it's easy for me to say, not being a New South Welshman, but I don't think this is a time for panic. It was 16-10. It wasn't 50-10 or 36-10. I think that minor changes I'd agree with. I do believe that, I would always start Cam Murray. I never understood any coach that decides to play Cam Murray less than however many minutes he wants to play. I don't understand that. It'd be interesting to hear what, maybe it was Liam Martin's kick chase that he really wanted to get, with Jackie White, and I'm not sure. But I believe Cam's got to be on there 80 minutes. You could see, yes, okay, I think he had a drop ball, and then that he ran a line and got stuck in the line, and Bolo's try wasn't a try. But outside of that, I thought he was really good. I thought he was running great lines, getting quick play the balls. And I just think you need him on for 80 because you want every chance you can get to get a quick play the ball, you need to do that. So I would be putting Cam Murray for...
Yeah, I personally, I look at Cam Murray and I see, like we've seen a number of times now coaches try and bring him off the bench. And I understand what they're trying to do. But I just think it's outthinking the room now. I just think he has to be on there for 80 minutes.
Yep.
The experiment of bringing him off the bench. And, I kind of thought, when I was out there watching it live, I sort of thought when he came on the field, I thought, okay, this could be a masterstroke. If he comes on and plays 50 minutes here going 100%, which he did, he was incredible, but it wasn't enough. I think that he has to be an 80-minute player, Origin, NRL, Kangaroos, whatever it is. He just has to be there for the whole game now.
The only reason I can sort of work out with why Murray came off the bench, and look, I don't mind him to a degree in the impact role coming on after 20-odd, but maybe it was because they didn't have a backup hooker and they're sitting there going, all right, if Cook does go down early and they need Murray to slot in there, who we sort of assumed was probably going to be the man to fill in there, and he had to go and then play big minutes at hooker. They wanted him, playing 60 as opposed to already being gassed for 20 minutes. It's all like hearsay, but otherwise it just didn't make sense. And I loved on the Channel 9 coverage where they looked at the metres per minute quite early on. A lot of them stats come up and they're just... like, it means nothing to you, and it's just pointless. But it was a really good one, the metres per minute, and it had... talking about the speed of Origin, 111 metres per player in the first was after about 20-odd minutes. An NRL game was 85.
It's a lifetime away.
And I think this came back to a game probably with Billy Slater with his selection, and Freddie to a degree as well, getting these smaller, more mobile forwards in Cotters, in Nanais, these sorts of fellas, and tying it back to Cam Murray, a bloke who can easily go 80 minutes. He is nimble. They get rid of these guys like Jai Arrows, Jake Trebojevic, who are a bit less mobile. I think that paid off for Billy and the Maroons, and for the same reason, with the speed of Origin, it just suits Cam Murray so well.
Yeah, so well. I mean, and you just want him there, getting quick play the balls all the time. A quick shout out, look, I know Cookie had some runs where he was kind of looking, and nothing was really going on, but he made 54 tackles and didn't miss one.
Did you see that ball he threw to Cleary out of dummy half?
Yeah.
In that first try? Like, that was... You watch their defensive line. And Felice Kafusi, he was the third man out, and off that one pass, he created an advantage
Massively.
straight away. It was he did have his moments, obviously, that weren't great, Cookie, but he did a lot of work in D, and I thought that was the best pass of the game.
Yeah.
I know it's dummy half pass and whatnot, but it was just... That whole play doesn't happen unless that pass is perfect, and he nailed it.
Do you feel that, let's assume, even though we've got no evidence for it, but let's assume you're right about the Cam Murray one, where he was kept on the bench just in case he needs to play long minutes in the hooking position. Do you feel that that's representative of Freddie being a bit too cautious with his selections, trying to cover? Because we look at Crichton, and this is, Crichton, I felt, was put in an unfair position. To come in the middle of Origin and have never played that before, really hard for him to excel. And I don't think people expected Whiten to play as good as he did, and you can't move Whiten. So Crichton was in a really unfair position. But you'd have to say that Queensland's decision to go risk a little bit, put Harry Grant on the 14 rather than a guy that can cover every position, probably paid off, because Harry Grant was outstanding come off the bench. He really did impact the game. Matter of fact, I would say Queensland's bench is probably what was the difference. And Cameron Munster, obviously. Again, Cam Murray was great, but I felt like even Junior Bolo to the bench. I know RCG played really well, but I would have started Junior Bolo. I just think that he's a great starter. He's got really good... He can shift the ball in the middle there. He's been there and done it. I think he just mixed too much up off the bat for them. So I would... depending on, club form, I would definitely keep Junior Bolo in the side for sure. And Regan Campbell-Gillard, I don't think he's done anything to warrant not being selected. In saying that, we'll talk about the Eels game. Man, did they look flat? And
awful.
What was scary for me is if RCG and Bolo, if they are tired, that team is like, you could argue they're not even a top 8 side. Anyway, we'll get to that because it seemed to me that RCG and Bolo they just seemed tired. They seemed really tired, and that's fair because think of how much work they get through that team. Like they get through so much work, so much contact to come back from 2 front rowers coming back from one of the fastest games we've ever witnessed. Like that was honestly one of the fastest games I've personally ever witnessed. To then back up, I know it was 5 days later, but a tough gig. What do you reckon, Matty? How would you sum up Origin 1 as a New South Welshman?
I've got a question for you all, and it's something that I haven't really heard in like everyone. It's about Stephen Crichton, and everyone's kind of saying, "Oh, it was the wrong decision," blah blah blah. And I'm really torn because he came on for Stags right in the 55th minute or whatever. Now, if say Hines or some other utility was playing, and we lost. If say Hines or some other utility was playing, Stags gets injured, then say Madison has to go play centre, and then Queensland score 2 tries down that edge. What would be and we'd be saying that Crichton should have been picked because we didn't put a true centre.
Yeah,
in there.
For sure.
Whereas on the other side of the things, you could argue that New South Wales maybe didn't have a plan for Crichton, or maybe they did have a plan for Crichton and Whiten was playing too good that he kept him on the bench. So I want to know what you guys would do for game 2 with that 14 spot because I'm seriously torn about it.
The thing with Crichton is when he came on, to get involved, he's got to be in the middle. So, okay, you're defending in the centre position. But if you want to get any ball, like centres get barely any ball as it is. If you want to get any ball, he's going to come in and he'll defend at centre, but he's pretty much roaming around the middle to get the ball. And the concern I had was if you've never done that before, just a fresh come off the bench as a centre, it's very hard. It's a hard mental state to be in. It's not as simple. Like when you start a game, you can ease into it. You might get a couple of 2 or 3 early balls, and then you're in the game. To come off the bench, defend out in the centre, but essentially have to come into the middle because you need to get the ball and get your hands on the ball. I just think that although you're right, it was good that he did cover Stags. I just felt that the plan from Queensland was much more succinct and we've got a 14 on there. We know he's going to come in and do a job. And also, look what Queensland did when Xavier Coates went down. Holmes moved to the wing. Catewell went in the centres, and we didn't miss a beat. And we still got that extra person in the middle to change the game. Whereas putting a centre on, yes, he did replace Stags, but a 14 is on the bench to change the game. That's what his job is change the momentum of the game. And how can he do that from the centre outside of getting in that middle there and, running around trying to do what he needs to do? Whereas Harry Grant, he absolutely changed the game. What do you reckon about?
Yeah, I think with the 14 jersey, it's tough because a lot of it is hindsight calls. So often, you see a few years ago when Tedesco got injured, everyone said, why didn't he have Pappenhausen on there? I look back at that and think, if you have Pappenhausen on there, he can only play one position. That's all he can do. You can't put Pappy in the centres, you can't put him on the wing, but we all acted like Freddie was an idiot for not picking him. And I think also with New South Wales, Nico Hines would be my 14, but I still don't think he's an ideal 14. I look back at the history of Origin, some of the best 14s. I think Ben Hunt's been one of the best. He can play hooker, he can play halfback, then you move your team around. A Craig Wing, he was an absolute champion when we were able to have him as our 14. Ideally, I want a 14 to be able to cover hooker and halfback. 5'8".
Right now, and I'd maybe have to think about it more, but I've been thinking about it a little bit. I actually think Api Coruscant could be the perfect 14 for you guys. I know he can't play 7, but look what Harry Grant is in better form than Cookie. And Queensland had such a specific game plan. They had the best hooker put on the bench. And I just think that, whether you start Appy and you bring Cookie on like Harry Grant and you just get Cookie just fucking shooting out of the hooker, I think that could be a possibility for you.
I think Appy's the closest thing we have to that, but I don't think we have that player. I don't think I wouldn't be confident having Appy in the halves. As you said, he's not a halfback. He's the closest thing we've got to it. I would still probably edge with Hines slightly, but Appy's form is undeniable, and watching what Queensland did. I thought the other thing, you mentioned how well Billy Slater did. I thought the most incredible thing about that night was that he used so many interchanges on his 2 hookers. Nano got injured, Coates got injured. His plan went out the window so quickly, and the way that he adapted throughout that game, it was like it was his 25th Origin game he was coaching, not his first.
Stayed real calm too.
There was no panic. There was nothing. We said before how quick that game was. I watched yesterday on KO. I think it was game 1 of 2003. And I remember Sterlo in the first 5 minutes said, "This is the fastest Origin I've ever seen." And watching that, it's like it was in slow motion compared to the other night.
It was so fast. What do you reckon about Matty's question and the 14 role?
Yeah, look, bit to dissect there, but if we're talking about who the ideal 14 is for the Blues, let's say the exact same team's picked and Stephen Crichton's taken out and you're looking at who the 14 is. I think Nico is fine, and Matty touched on how, if a back line player goes down like Tony Staggers did, you have options there. I think Nico could slot in at centre if need be. He's a backline player. It's not ideal, but the other option is Cam Murray has shifted out to centre at times defensively, and he's elite.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but he did it for the Bunnies a couple of years ago.
Killed it.
And went out to centre, and he was against one of the best centres in the game, and he just destroyed them.
Yeah, chopped him every time he got the ball. It was like chopped him.
But
I remember
anyway,
that
so there's a fine option there. The more I look into it, and that team that the Blues picked, we're missing that. Obviously, the backup hooker option. Should Cook go down? And, you could say he could do this, could do that. Appy's fine, but the more I look at that team, Cook is so important to it, and so much of our attack comes off the back of him and those fast play balls, which we didn't get as often as we would have liked on Wednesday night. The bloke who I don't think is in our top sort of 4 or 5 back rowers in New South Wales, but would fit that team, is Victor Radley. Because I think he's an excellent footballer, but he's just perfect in the sense that, he can come on, play lock, he can spell Isaiah Yeo for 15, 20 minutes and give him a bit of a break and be a like-for-like kind of ball-playing link role lock player, but also cover Damien Cook should he go down. So I think he'd be a great fit for that bench. Of course, he's not fit at the moment, so clutching there. But so I think he'd be a fantastic fit. In terms of him not being fit, and I was looking at other replacements with him not there, who are our options. There's a bit of talk that Reece Robson might come into the fold, who, again, I think it's a premature move, but he fits that role, doesn't he? Because he can play at lock. He can play at hooker and cover Cookie.
He's very similar to Cotter.
He's very similar to Cotter. He's almost just the slightly reversing that he's a hooker specialist who can play lock. And So I think he could do that quite well. And he doesn't have to play big minutes. Like, as I said, I want Cook playing 80. So he can come on and play 20 minutes at lock, and that can be his involvement for the game whilst covering Cook. So, I don't hate that. It'd be interesting to see which way they go.
The one thing with Hines is that, on form, I really believe that New South Wales could have used Hines to unlock that middle a bit better. I thought Cleary, once they realised, Queensland's got Cam Smith and Billy Slater and JT going, I know how to upset Cleary. Once they realised that, I think they could have really fell back on Hines being the guy and almost used Cleary as a decoy. Because if they imagine a situation where Hines comes on and basically Freddie, calls the shot and says, Hines is your team now. Cleary, I just want you to do whatever Hines says, do it. Sit on the other side. Imagine how much space that would have opened up Hines on other sides, because Queensland were clearly stacking Cleary's side. Like wherever Cleary was, there was a Queensland player ready to shoot out and jam him. So that's where I do think that Hines could have really helped on the weekend. But I also think, it's like too many cooks, too many chefs in the kitchen. Like, Hines is the guy for his team. Like, he is the guy. And when he's not the guy, he can still do great things. But we saw when he was put back to fullback for the Sharks, he needed to be the guy for him to really impact the game. And I wonder how much they could work together, him and Cleary, when Cleary is clearly the guy. Like, he is the main guy. So it's a really interesting situation. It's a tough situation, because at the start you would have said Hines absolutely deserves that position. Now you look how well they did with Harry Grant off the bench in Queensland. You start going, ooh, maybe we do need someone. The reason why I like a 14 that can be a hooker is because what do you want your 14 to do? You want it to change a game. Who has the most control of the flow of a game on the field? It's the hooker, because they touch the ball the most and they decide where it goes. And so that's why I do like a like-for-like with a 14 on the roll, whereas sometimes you can bring a 14 on that isn't a hooker and they barely touch the ball because they're not the ones calling the shots. So it's a really, really tough situation.
The beauty that Nico has, and if Nico was the 14 and he was injected with 20 minutes to go, with 6 behind chasing the game, he'd be coming on in that fullback utility role. He wouldn't be I'm not saying he'd replace Teddy. He wouldn't be coming on as a halfback like he's at the Sharks, where he'd be first receiver and calling the shots.
Would you take Isaiah off?
You could take Isaiah off. I said if you're chasing the game, you could take one of your front rows off and keep Isaiah, and he'd just be another sort of lurking option in around the ruck with Teddy, and just another X factor. But he would be completely roaming. He wouldn't be jumping into first receiver too often. So it'd be more of the Melbourne Storm sort of role at fullback than it would the Sharkies halfback role.
Yeah, the only issue I see with that is like the concern for New South Wales is Cleary just kept getting shut down. Like his whole momentum just got cut off straight away because they would just shoot. They were almost saying, like, what's the Storm do? We're going to shoot out. If you can spread it to the edge, we're going to trust our cover defence to get across and do it. And the concern I have is if you bring on Hines to be that second fullback, he may not touch the ball because Cleary keeps getting shut down.
That's so when Cleary gets shut down, who's lurking inside, outside him? It's Nico's going, whack, you're going to jam on me. Nico's flying.
But you've got Teddy to do that.
Yeah.
If you can't do that with Teddy, I don't think you're going to be able to do that anywhere else. But, who knows? It could absolutely work.
It's the X factor that makes him a bit exciting.
100%. Because you can look at it all logically and you can say, well, Cleary was under pressure if you can't do it with Teddy. But X factor, you can't describe X factor. It just happens. It's like Munster.
Exactly.
You can't just he's just on the field. If you said, how's Munster going to tear New South Wales apart? He's not that fast. He's kind of strong. Solid ball playing, but then you watch him on the field and he just fucking does it somehow. So I agree with you. He does have that, absolutely has that X factor, and his ability to create space for people outside him is some of the best in the competition. Is there anyone else that? So do we all think Sims is going to be the unfortunate one here? Is there anyone else that may be unfortunate?
I think so. I think Sims has to go. Do we think Madison holds on to his spot? When I was out there, I didn't really notice him. I watched it back, and I just think he sort of struggled with the pace of the game in his first game. Do you think he holds on?
Ooh, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one.
I don't think he deserves to be dropped, but if he is, I won't be surprised.
I don't even think Sims played that bad either. Did you guys see something that I didn't? With Sims?
There was obviously the one off the scrum. He let DCE go through earlier in the game as well, and there was. I'd be interested to hear Slater's thoughts because there was a moment earlier in that game where DCE came off the scrum and he almost beat him again on his inside shoulder, and he sort of reached and got him at the last minute. I was too focused on the Queensland. I didn't know who was defending. I'd be moving him out, but I also wouldn't have had him game one realistically.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, Liam Martin keeps his spot. Ryan Madison in question. Critter, does he keep his spot?
I don't know.
It feels really unfair, to bring this young fella in.
It feels a lot like, do you remember when they picked Dylan Walker a number of years ago and they brought him off the bench and they just, I think they shoved Walker at hooker, so that was worse, but it had that same sort of.
Walker actually wouldn't be a bad pick at 14, to be honest. Now that I think about it,
he might actually, yeah. Well, he's a guy that could play 6. He could play 7.
He's honestly your perfect utility.
I wouldn't. Yeah, we just stumbled on something good there. Yeah, I'm not sure if Critter's safe. The question first is Stagg safe? If Stagg's fit, does he play?
Yes, because I'm trying to think who else would be there.
Well, you could go Campbell Graham.
Options,
there are a few.
Would you? Oh, that's a tough.
Do you SOS Latrell in? Move Jack to the right, maybe.
Let's get to Latrell.
No, I think Latrell's been ruled out. I think the Bunnies ruled him out of contention for game 2.
So they've ruled. Bunnies have said he's not available.
So.
They've pretty much. Jason Demetriou said he's not playing this week against the Dragons, so he's next to no chance to play Origin. That's what he was quoted as.
Can he do that?
Probably not.
If Freddie wants to pick him, can't he just fucking pick him?
Yeah, and also is Latrell going to be like, oh no, sorry, bro, not coming to play Origin. This is what I was born to do. Let's assume that he is available for selection. Do you pick Latrell Mitchell? No games. He has only played, Matty said, 5 games in a year and a bit.
Since the Manu incident, he's played 5 games since then, and that was last September.
So he's played 5 games this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we were up 1-0, I wouldn't even consider it. But down in the series, it showed last Wednesday night that we just didn't have that guy to throw the ball to and just see what happens. Just break it over.
Teddy worked his dick off.
Mate, he did so much work.
No
one's even talking about Teddy.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jack played a similar role. Some of the things that Jack did was incredible. And if we win that game, mate, Jack's performance goes down as one of the One of the best we've seen,
It was fucking outstanding.
He was great, but still, there's only a certain amount of guys in this competition that have Latrell and Turbo ability.
Yeah. And you want to something crazy? So, To'o and Tupou both had more runs than Teddy. So, like, when you look at Fox, it's like To'o and Tupou played outstanding. Like, 200, both ran for over 200 metres. So, 400 metres between them as your wingers. I mean, you can't really ask for much more. You know, okay, obviously you can ask them not to make errors if they made errors, but so that's the Fox one is the most interesting one to me. And you compare it to, like, say, you know, Queensland, like Coates, I know he went off, so you can't really add him, but Selwyn ran for 162, had 18 runs.
I thought he was good coming out of his own.
He was outstanding, but what I'm trying to say is like he had 18 runs, To'o had 25, 25, and Tupou had 26. So you can't say that the outside backs didn't, you know, do their job or contribute to the game. So it's a really tough one in regards to Latrell. I just think, fuck, I'm so torn because it's like I feel like he was born for these moments, you know?
As a Queenslander, are you more worried? Like, if he's in there, are you more worried?
I don't know because, like, you know, if he's fit and he's healthy, yes. But if he's fatigued, I just say, look, just get us through that first 20 and then he'll pop up here and there. And if we could just survive it, sweet.
I feel like if we were to pick him, I'd know in the first 5 minutes if we're going to win or lose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Realistically.
Yeah.
And like that, it might sound like a negative to Latrell. It's a compliment. He's just that sort of guy.
Well, I mean, literally the first break he's had in game one last year was a cutout ball to Latrell, 80-minute run. Yeah, look, it's a tough one. Do you bring Crichton? Give Crichton a crack in the centres if Staggs doesn't get selected?
Yeah, potentially. Would you pick Staggs again? What are you thinking?
I thought Staggs was very hard done by.
Yeah, so did I.
I didn't think he did a thing wrong. I thought he was quite strong defensively. He had some decent carries. He got basically very little opportunity in that first half, and then he went off injured. I was like, well, seriously, it wasn't his fault we lost or anything. So, I mean, I'd be happy to stick with Staggs. On Latrell, a few things to weigh up because we're not short on options for starters. We mentioned Campbell Graham, Staggs is there, Critter. I do think, again, he was put in a tough position, Critter, but there were some big things that went against him. I'm fairly sure he had the poor defensive read for Benny Hunt's line break where he might have jammed, or might have held back and he just slid straight through. I won't hold this against him, but Munster stripped him at a key moment in the game.
Also the penalty.
And the penalty. Yeah. There was a lot of things that I'm just like, I just don't think it made sense him being on the bench, and I would look elsewhere to him. You can bring in, say Staggs, he's no good with his shoulder, but that sounds very minor. Campbell Graham's rock solid. But then you go, Latrell, all right, if he's 90 to 100% fit and that can be guaranteed, I would be happy to bring him in because I think he's just that good a player, so he's made for that stage. The big thing is that he's a centre and he's not a big running centre where he runs for 200 plus metres from that position with 20 carries and all that. It's not an overly intensive position centre where you need to be super fit and ready to go. Like Latrell, when he's playing centre in the NRL and Origin and whatnot, he can have 7-8 runs a game and he's extremely effective. So I think he could handle it provided he's fit and good to go. The only thing there is Latrell is primarily a left centre because of his fend and a lot of other reasons. Jack Whiten is also, he's not a left side specialist because he's a very natural footballer, but you'd have to probably shift Jack to the right, which I think he'd be okay with, but it's another disruption that's not ideal. You're changing up edges. He was so good there on the left, so you're willing to bring Latrell back underdone and then move Jack, who's probably our best player on Wednesday night, to the other edge. A lot of moving parts, isn't there?
Mate, it's crazy. It's because the thing is, it's like, because it's such a young side for New South Wales, back in the day, if you had an older side that's experienced, won a couple of series, you just go, oh, no, we stick with them. 1 or 2 changes, we stick with them outside of that. Whereas with this one, like, you just don't know because when the Fox, Crichton and Trbojevic kind of get left out, you kind of go, well, okay, he's going to pick specifically on whatever game plan he chooses. And that's why you go to game 2 and go, is he going to pick specifically on the game plan he has for game 2? And that may change half the selections. Just before we move on, do you bring the Fox in? Gun to your head.
No, I wouldn't.
Gun to your head.
Yep.
Matty?
Yes, I would.
Breaks me heart to say this because I think Tupou is outstanding and played outstanding, but I think you do. And it's actually not about his performance on the field because I don't think the Fox is going to go for 200 metres. It's the energy that he brings. Like, it's just the energy he brings on the field, off the field, everything about it. They need something big. They need something dramatic. And unfortunately, it's honestly, outside of maybe like the key players in the side, he'd almost nearly replace anyone. You know what I mean? Not just Tupou or on the wings, but anyone in that side, outside of the key positions, I'd bring Fox in just because of what he brings in camp.
I think, like, just football-wise, I think it's fixing a problem that we don't have, just football-wise. But without being inside New South Wales camp and knowing what it was like, if it was a little bit flat like we're hearing, I can understand bringing Fox in, but what does it say to those other guys, though?
I know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I hate to be like, what would Queensland do? But they wouldn't drop those guys after performances. Well,
but they would never get rid of Fox in the first place.
No, I understand that, but I mean, we've made our bed. We've picked two guys. They've done a job for you. They've been solid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd leave these two as they are, especially after Daniel Tupou's come out this week and has pledged to New South Wales. He's not going to play for Tonga in week 2.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So he probably is going to stick with that.
Well, I think before the game one, I can't remember what you boys said, but I thought we were pretty adamant on, all right, we would have gone the Fox, but it was no knock on Tupou or any doubt on Tupou. Tupou came in and did, I think, what we expect him to do. He was tremendous. His yardage was huge. And if I'm Brad Fittler and I've picked Daniel Tupou for round Origin 1 over the Fox, I'd stick with it because, well, he did his job. As you said, what message does it send by dropping him? Yeah. But I'm not Brad Fittler and you're asking me, so I'd be like, I'd still go with Fox.
Yeah,
but
okay.
How does Freddie drop Tupou after that? Seriously.
Mate, the tough call. I don't know what the right answer is. I really don't, because it's so easy for us to sit here after the game is gone and be like, I'd call in the Fox.
Great job.
Yeah. Whereas, like, before the game, we were probably like, ooh, tough go on Fox. It wasn't like we were like, nah, wrong call, bad call, it's going to lose them the game. What do you reckon, Matty?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, before the game, hindsight's so easy.
Yeah.
I understood the Daniel Tupou selection, but just the way the Fox is playing, like, he scored a hat-trick yesterday. He's playing so well. He's done the job for New South Wales so many times. I don't know. We were just missing some sort of spark. And would he have made a difference on Wednesday night? Maybe. Maybe. Probably not. I don't know. But you're right. It's so tough on Tupou to drop him. It's so hard.
It's crazy. Or, To'o. Do you drop To'o? Mate, I don't know the answer is, honestly. All three of them deserve the jersey. Seriously, all three of them do.
I think it's where you have that moment where Daniel Tupou, like, he comes up with a try assist for Teddy. It's good, like, it was forward pass, but
yeah, I don't think that was forward, to be honest, but...
Well, I mean, if that's given, all of a sudden New South Wales win, Teddy's come up with Tupou's come up with a try assist, and we're having a very different conversation all of a sudden.
And also, he did exactly what Freddie picked him to do, which was the high ball, get up, out jump someone, offload, try.
And I mean, he had that moment where obviously his side got peeled there, where Critter got stuck at first marker and they had Payne Haas there. Like that was just good vision by KP to address that the A was a front rower just to skip outside him. Like, not much Tupou could have done there.
No.
It's a 3-on-2. It's like it is what it is. Like,
the tough thing for wingers, and look, I understand why people can be negative, but his really only option there was to go for the intercept. Because, like, whatever way he went, Ponga's hitting the right guy. And if he goes for the intercept and he hits the short ball, everyone's like, you cat, tackle the player, rah. You know what I mean? And it's like, even if he had have tackled, like, the short player, he probably would have gone long. Or he would have, he had such a run-up, he would have hit, then he would have offloaded, whatever it is. I don't think Tupou could have done.
And I mean, like, he made a good play later in the game where he saved a try on that edge, and DCE fucking walked over off the scrum. He just like...
Tupou was so far from the issue on that try. And he copped a little bit for it and whatnot, but when you look up and Kalen Ponga's got a one-on-one with Payne Haas, it's like he's not getting that option wrong ever. And it was like, it goes back to the Blues markers were slow to help out. Teddy, there was a great shot from the back, and Teddy was sliding across to the open side because he thought it was going that way. Teddy should have held firm on the inside of Payne Haas so he could go. It was all these issues, and it was none of it was Tupu, none of it was Nathan Cleary either. And to bring up something that I bring up most weeks with Kalen Ponga, but flat and fast at first receiver, not out the back. It didn't matter. That didn't have to be Payne Haas. It could have been just about anyone, and he would have got on the outside of him. Like,
and also, he could have, he may been able to just gas Haas and score himself. There's a world where he throws a dummy, Cleary stays out in his man, and he just scores himself. He had so many, so many options.
Doesn't buy it,
That wasn't a okay, you could have said, Teddy could have been on the inside. That was more just build up pressure. Like that was build up pressure with a great play that KP executed incredibly. Now, just quickly before we move on, I will say the negativity that people are giving Nathan Cleary is outrageous. Outrageous. Now, fair enough if you want to say, look, didn't have the best game. I can jive with that. But some of the chat, you're just going, what? This guy has won you 3 series and a grand final, and all of a sudden he can't play footy. He's not a big game player. Like, what is going on?
I think there's a lot of people that have been sitting around for 3 years waiting for Cleary to drop at some point, and now they've taken their opportunity. If you go back and watch that game, and the amount of things that Cleary created that the team screwed up on the next play. Like, he put Tariq Sims through a half hold. They're on the front foot. They're coming out to the right. Junior Bolo gets the ball and steps in and scores. Obstruction there, so they lose that advantage. We mentioned if Val Holmes wasn't there to clean up that kick, all of a sudden he scores the match winner there. Like, I understand his kicking game was far from where it should be, but this is also where we come back to that 14. I personally think it makes it very tough when you don't have a 9 that can kick. Your markers know straight away. We know who we need to get to.
And also, are we forgetting that 2 of the greatest minds in rugby league, in Billy Slater and Cameron Smith, would have been watching video after video on Nathan Cleary, and blokes were just shooting out the line. And also, it's a big reason why Benny Hunt got selected at 9, because Smithy loved the fact that, no, I'm not saying Smithy selects a side. This is just, Smithy loves the fact that Benny Hunt can kick out a hooker.
And how important was that kick that he did?
Exactly. And he came back on, and Benny Hunt did that kick, and I said, Smithy, your hands are all over that, mate. He didn't confirm or deny, but he was like, love that shit. Love that shit.
There was moments in that game where, you've seen all the highlights of them putting pressure on Cleary. Mate, the moments where they didn't have pressure on him, Cleary was in his own head. Cleary was like, I need to get this away. He was like, it's got to be coming from somewhere.
But that's what pressure does to you.
That's what it does,
when they're shooting out all game and then they don't shoot out, you're anticipating that they will shoot out. I think that the chat about Cleary is just insanity to me. This is what his stats are: 135 metres run, 2 tackle breaks, a line break assist, 20 tackles, 3 miss, which is not bad, and 600 kick metres in an Origin. And apparently it was the worst game of his whole career.
Team lost by 6.
So look, I think we'll talk about it quickly. Isaiah Yeo not going off after that first tackle. I am torn between this. Part of me is like, this is Origin. When you sign up to play NRL or rugby league, or especially NRL and Origin, you are agreeing that you're going to get head knocks, and it's going to affect you long term. It's going to do that. So that part of me is like, I thought it was a great Origin moment for Isaiah Yeo to come straight back and play a part in the game. But then the other part of me of like, well, the NRL has made this big huff and puff about head knocks, this, that, next thing, head highs. We've seen it totally change our game. Like the fabric of the game has been changed by HIAs and sin bins. And then a situation comes up where it is clear that he is concussed and he doesn't get taken off. And so that's where I think the game let Isaiah Yeo down there with the stance the game has taken. What do you guys think?
I agree, mate. And I actually, where we were sitting, it was down there. I didn't even notice it when I was out there. I didn't even realise. Did you realise when it happened?
No, we're about 2.5 kilometres.
I had no idea it even occurred. Yeah, and then watching it back, I couldn't believe he stayed on. And I agree. I mean, it's got that Origin aspect to it of, you see the old tapes of Dallas Johnson stumbling around and just keep going. And I love that about Origin, but to put our game through what it's been through the last 2 years with these HIAs and changing the fabric of it, then we get to the biggest stage with the most eyeballs, we just ignore it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good look, I don't think.
Yeah, look, it doesn't come down to Isaiah Yeo, it doesn't come down to the Blues doctors, because every single one of them, the coaching staff, they're going, there's no way I'm coming off. I'm staying on. I'm a bit ruddy, whatever. Like, that's why they brought in the independent doctor, wasn't it, for these reviews. So it's like, even as the Blues team, you go, yeah, they've got this player welfare in mind. I know how important that is, but like Isaiah Yeo is going, I'm fine. There's not a chance I'm coming off. This is Origin.
Yeah.
But the whole reason the independent doctor was brought in was because of that. And for them to assess him and say he's good to go, it was like a double standards for Origin sort of thing. And I love the double standards of Origin to NRL, where they officiate differently and there's more leniency on decisions and it's tougher and quicker and all of that. But the one thing that we say week in, week out, that they've cracked down on, doesn't matter what level you're playing, any grade, it's head knocks, head highs and looking after the players long term. Couldn't believe it, and he had to come off, but...
If I'm Kurt Mann that got kicked in the dick a few weeks ago and got taken off the field, I'd be fucking filthy.
Oh, man. What do you reckon, Matty?
Yeah, I was in row triple Z all the way at the back, but we were behind the post. So my mate Daniel actually saw it, and he's like, he's going off here. Like, Cook had to literally hold him up. This may be wrong, but I'm going to say it. I think there was two instances in the game that were controversial. It was Yeo not being taken off, and it was Crichton not being sin binned. Now, I didn't actually notice how bad the Crichton tackle was till the next day, but after looking at the replays, because it's Origin, I'm like, all right, penalty, yes. Yes, he got him just above the horizontal. It was pretty dangerous. Because it's Origin, I'm happy that's not a sin bin because, like, it's Origin. But Yeo, like, concussed, that's absolute no-brainer for me. He should have been taken off the field immediately. The independent doctor should have seen it. Like, he was wobbling around. Cook had to hold him up. Like, we're doing him a disservice not taking him off the field. Yeah. And he could have come back on in 15 minutes. He probably wouldn't have, but he couldn't. So I'm happy with the Crichton one, but that Yeo one, that was an absolute shocker, I reckon.
Yeah, it's really tough. I'm torn here because as a player, I would be like, nah, leave me out there. Fuck that. I'm willing to sacrifice this for this moment. And so, yeah, as I said at the start, I'm really torn. The game has made a stance. They should stick by it, but at the same time, Isaiah Yeo, if he goes on to win the game, like, for example, if we had this crackdown, Sam Burgess doesn't have his incredible grand final moment. And that's what I always lean back to, of all of these historic moments.
Mate, you look at Brad Fittler 2002 when he got hit, he would have gone off the field. The Warriors win their first grand final.
Yeah.
But look, you can go off for 15 minutes, do the test, and then even then if they go, all right, mate, you're sweet, you're all good from there, but just to not even come off at all was the big one.
I'm torn. I know what the right answer is. That's the thing, though. I know what the right answer is. The right answer is get him off the field. He's concussed. The Crichton one was a really interesting one because it just floated by and no one really said anything about it. But if you're going to send off blokes for especially like the Lawton one, the Naden one was wild yesterday. Holy shit. Was it yesterday or the day before? Day before. That was wild. But if you're going to send off Lawton for what he did, are you telling me that Crichton one isn't 10 minutes in the bin? If that's the standard that you've set?
Yeah, but and this is probably where I'm happy for us to bend the rules a little bit in Origin. And maybe I'm biased. I'm a Blues fan, obviously, and Munster was fucking fisting us.
I'm happy to bend that.
Mate, to be honest with you, I felt a little bit sorry for Crichton in that moment. Yeah. I know he did the wrong thing, but someone needed to get up and hit Munster. He was just taking the piss out of us. So I felt a little bit sorry for how that played out for Critter. In the NRL, yes, he would have gone for 10, but I'm sort of happy. And I'd like to think that if it was Queenslander doing that, I'd also be happy that they stay on the field for the sake of Origin. To be clear, I'm not saying I wanted Crichton off. I'm just pointing out, they talk a big game in the NRL, and fair enough, I really like that they're looking out for the player. But they got put under a little bit of pressure in Origin, and unfortunately, at least in one of the cases, I'm with you, Matty. I can let the Crichton one go. No one got hurt. Just skate past it. If Munster was injured, would have been a very different conversation.
And I agree with you as well. I feel sorry for Crichton because someone needed to do something because he was taking the absolute piss. But anyway, outside of that, I thought it was a fantastic game. I thought it was fast. I thought it was flowing. I know some New South Wales staff have kind of said that they felt Queensland were much better in the ruck. The implication is obviously we held down. I tend to disagree, man. Yes, we were good in the ruck, but we gave away 4-6 agains. I didn't feel that the Queensland were way worse in the ruck than New South Wales. Now, am I being biased? Let me know.
No, I agree. I think it was pretty even.
Did you feel like Queensland were lying? Like, it was noticeable that Queensland were deploying wrestle tactics to slow everything down?
Oh, I didn't, and I think it's irrelevant because even if they were, they got away with it and the ref didn't call it, so it's like, good luck to them.
And that's what shit me. You had some New South Wales, someone in the staff, someone came out and said, oh, next game we'll slow it down. It's like, if you felt like they were slowing it down and they were getting away with it, that's where you've got to adjust your fucking game.
But also, Queensland earned that right by being better than us through the middle and being more dominant in tackles. And that's what people probably miss. It's like, well, if they get 2 to 3 blokes in the tackle and they win that contact and put you on your back, you earn the right to lay over the ruck.
Yep.
And then in reverse, if you're charging through them, getting on your elbows and knees and there's blokes falling off, you're rattled, well, then they're not allowed to roll over you because they don't have a dominant tackle. It's as simple as that, and Queensland earned that right.
Yeah. Look, maybe I'm biased, but I respectfully disagree. I did not, as in, does not disagree with you, but disagree with anyone that felt that Queensland were outrageously lying on the tackles or anything. I thought that it was the fastest game that I can remember watching, and I got a pretty short memory though. But it was a fast as anything game. What do you reckon, Matty?
I think if New South Wales want or need to bend the rules in game 2, it needs to be not the ruck. It needs to be they need to put men in front of Cleary and protect him.
Yeah,
because they Cleary had no time all night to do anything.
Yeah,
it was lacking, wasn't it? Like there was a lot of time.
The rest may have said to them though, if you're putting blockers in, we're going to fucking ping you.
Yeah, okay.
He did have Cleary early on. He had that immense pressure on him all game. But there was one about 10 minutes in. He put up a bomb on the Queensland 40 and he had a stack of time off a quick play of the ball and it went about 2 metres deep in the in goal and Ponga caught it. And it was just, it happened. And again, not live because, you miss everything at ANZ Stadium, Acor, wherever you are. But watching on the replay, I was like, wow, from Nathan Cleary, this just not happened.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think you can look at many reasons, but Cleary kicking in there, getting a 7 tackle set in Origin, that's very rare. So I thought it was a fantastic game. Do we all feel that way? It was a great game to watch.
Yeah.
It's a cracking game to watch. I felt it was exactly what footy needs and Origin needed, after the last couple of years with, shit going on and, people having to do it all in Queensland, all that kind of stuff. I thought it's exactly what New South Wales and Sydney needed is just a cracking game of footy where, yes, New South Wales didn't get up, but a few heroes were born that night, in my opinion.
Do you think that played a role in the result? I mean, New South Wales, they've been in cruise control for the last year in State of Origin. They haven't really had to play a game like that in quite some time. Do you think that played a role?
To be honest, I admired New South Wales' grit and determination. I know that you lost 16-10, but I actually thought that last 20 minutes for you guys was very Queensland-esque. You guys were doing try-saving tackles where we were 10 centimetres away. Like the one where Cobbo throws the ball back in, and then RCG, front rower, comes in, jams, I think, Gagai in the tackle, Gagai Holmes. Then there was the Benny Hunt one. There were a bunch of try-saving tackles. We made a bunch of line breaks towards the end there, and New South Wales hung in there. So I thought it wasn't that New South Wales played terribly. It was Billy Slater. Billy Slater and his coaching staff just brought ourselves up to Freddie's level. You have your ex-immortals like Freddie, like Joey. You've got Freddie. You've got Greg Alexander. You've got them. Now we've got our guys in there as well, and it's kind of like an even playing field now of we've got ex-legends coaching the boys, go at it. Now on to actually stores to grab a case of Bloke in a Bar. Cronus Liquor Gerringong, Page Bottler in ACT, Camperdown Cellars in Bronte and Darlinghurst, Charlie's Liquor Barns in all of the Charlie Liquor Barn stores, Super Cellars Werribee in Victoria, Blaxland Cellars. Blaxland's been around since day dot. Make sure to get there. Blaxland Cellars. Yeronga Cellars, Reef Gateway Early Beach, Club Hotel Roma, Harry Brown's Booville, Spa Mascot, Helene Supermarket Burwood. Turn up for family, mates, and a good time. The beer for blokes that turn up, guys. Make sure to grab a case of Bloke in a Bar. Also, Bloke MIDI is in all Liquor Legends, or will be slowly filtering out into all Liquor Legends across Victoria, New South Wales, ACT and Queensland. Be slowly filtering out over the next week or two. So go into your local Liquor Legends or go to the Liquor Legends site, liquorlegends.com.au, and there's a store locator because not all Liquor Legends have the Liquor Legends banner as a store. They might be, Kevin's Liquor Store or something like that, but they're under Liquor Legends. So go to the site, liquorlegends.com.au, you type in your area code, it'll show you the nearest store. Go and ask them, hey, you're ordering Bloke Midi, or can you order Bloke Midi in? And they should be able to order Bloke Midi in. And I tell you what, it's an absolutely beautiful mid-strength. Beautiful mid-strength.
How good's the can too? Just
Mate, yeah, it's sick. It's honestly, I'm torn. I kind of feel like it might be better than.
I was just about to say.
I'm honestly torn. Even the taste of the beer, I'm torn that the midi might be a little bit better. I honestly don't know what the better one is, and that's just a bloke talking about beer because it's fucking beautiful. Anyway, now. Big talking points. First of all, just quickly, congratulations to the Socceroos who qualified for the World Cup this morning. On penalties, they beat Peru, and no one gave them a chance. I think they were $5. Paying $5 to beat Peru. They beat them on penalties. Incredible. I think they win $15 million just for getting into the World Cup. And what's crazy is, like, you know, at the moment, professional soccer in Australia is on its knees. So we think rugby union's on its knees. Professional soccer is struggling. So for them to get that $15 million, there's going to be a lot of young kids that watch those guys and go over there. And I know our Matildas are really good as well and aspire to be it. So congratulations to Socceroos, boys. It brought flooding back memories, Guru. Flooding back memories of when I used to be a little whippersnapper playing a bit of soccer.
I always forget you're a soccer player.
Mate, till I was 17, mate. Till I was bloody 17. Then I decided to come to league.
You still watch it?
Nah, I haven't watched it since I started playing league.
Yeah, okay.
You know what's weird though, like super weird, is that even after being in the NRL first grade squad for at least 8 years, even after playing NRL professionally, all that kind of stuff, I still feel more comfortable with a soccer ball at my feet than a footy in my hands.
Yeah, right.
Because I did it since I was 4 years old till I was 17.
Wow.
You know, whereas like footy in my hands, don't get me wrong, it feels great, you know, whatever. But put it this way, if I didn't touch a footy for 10 years and then tried to handle it, I'd be nowhere near. Whereas like I'm always got that touch of a soccer ball, like not that great. Anyway, enough about me. Who gives a fuck? Honestly, everyone's listening, going fucking show. Who cares?
I'm sure you put a lot of your goal kicking down to it.
Yeah,
too, of
yeah.
course.
My goal kicking actually wasn't that good.
Tell you what, boys, I was up at the crack of this morning to watch that one, and I can safely say that after 0 goals in 120 minutes, we've chosen the right sport.
Yeah, it's tough.
I love my soccer. I'm a bit of a sport enough across the board, but I was watching it just going, Jesus Christ, like if something doesn't happen soon, there's going to be issues.
And mate, it's tough. I went for a walk yesterday. You know what's weird about owning a business is like you can never stop and enjoy anything anymore. So like I go for a walk, I stop, and I'm like, I want to watch this soccer. It's terrible standard, but I want to watch it. But there's always this in the back of your head, oh, no, I should be working. No, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. You can't just like stop and go, I'm just going to do something. Just going to waste time. I'm just going to waste time. Anyway, enough about me, as I said. Who cares if you've all tuned out?
We run our businesses very differently.
If you've tuned out, I'll see you next week. Now, RTS makes the All Black squad. Congratulations to RTS, sorry. All Black squad, what an incredible achievement. Could be a dual international. Now, this doesn't guarantee a debut at all. It's a 36-man squad, but still, to go from league to All Blacks, the pinnacle of, like, people don't understand. The All Blacks is not a team where you could just take our best talent and go, yeah, they'll make the All Blacks. The All Blacks is it's the toughest rugby team in the world to make, essentially. For RTS to make that squad is incredible. Incredible.
I was having a conversation with mates yesterday. What's harder to make, the All Blacks or the Kangaroos? What's harder to get into their starting side, do you reckon?
Probably the All Blacks, I'd say.
Blacks.
Yeah. Probably the All Blacks. Because, like, it's a religion over there.
Yeah.
Like, the All Blacks are culturally synonymous with their country. Whereas, like, Kangaroos, half our country doesn't even fucking watch. They watch AFL.
Oh, I don't watch a heap of Union, but like whenever I do, you watch the Crusaders or Chiefs or whatever, and they've got a 5'8", and you know, I'll say to one of my mates that knows Union, who's this guy? And he'll go, oh, he's the 5th choice 5'8" for the All Blacks. And
Crazy.
It's just like,
imagine this. This is how incredible what he's done. A guy grows up, plays league, comes to Union, kills it in Union, becomes arguably one of the country's best ever fullbacks, if not the best. No, I think he's the best Kiwi fullback of all time. Yes, I'd say that. RTS, best Kiwi fullback of all time. Goes to it, so he does that in league. Then when he's 27 years old, now that's the reverse. He does that in Union. Then when he's 27 years old, he comes and plays back and plays league for a year, and within a year he's in the Kangaroo squad. Imagine if you did that. Oh. And it's harder to make the All Black squad. That's what he just did. In a year, that'd be unheard of. A Union player coming over and making in a year, unheard of. So incredible achievement.
I remember a long time ago, it would have been like 2011 or something. I remember we were playing touch footy on a Wednesday arvo or something in a comp down at Queen's Park, and there was a field next to us, and one of the guys said, "Oh, that's the kid that the Roosters have just brought over." It was RTS, and he was dancing, and he was stepping, and he was so skinny, and they were like, "Oh, they reckon he's going to play first grade this year." And we remember looking at him going, "He's so small, there is not a hope in hell."
Yeah.
And this was touch, so he was dancing around everywhere. And then he debuted, and he was just bumping blokes off everywhere.
Super strong.
So strong.
Underestimate how strong he is on the field. What I did find funny, and I'm proud of this. Most people wouldn't, but the Blues Instagram, when I put the post up saying like All Blacks, and I always call Roger Tuivasa-Schnack. And so the Blues team put under the post Schnack. And I was like, that's my contribution to the rugby union world, is calling blokes hot.
I'm a Schooner-Vasashek kind of man.
Schooner-Vasashek, yeah, I don't mind that, Schooner-Vasashek. But yeah, congratulations, RTS, incredible. Elliott, Adam Elliott signs with the Knights. Quick thoughts on this, gentleman. What do you think?
Yeah, I like this one. I think might be a good one to hand to you. I think you guys will be pretty upset to lose him, won't you?
Yeah, and look, I don't want to go into it too much just because we spoke about it last week with the Raiders signing him when no one else wanted him because he'd played up a little bit off field and had his issues there. He's got himself sorted out. The Raiders threw him a bit of a lifeline. He was terrific for them. It really hurts to see him go. And I've spoken about it most weeks, but the Raiders are very heavy in their back row and their forward pack roster-wise. So someone had to go, and Adam being on, say he was on, I don't know, he might have been on 250k after leaving the Bulldogs. He's worth a lot more than that. Raiders didn't have the cap space for him. Goes to the Knights. Great signing for the Knights who lose Mitchy Barnett. So he's very like for like, let's be fair. He can play lock, he can play edge, he can play big minutes. He's a bit of X factor in the pack. So he's a great signing for them. I really do hope, whether Milf does it or what, that the Knights can move some funds around to get another good half to give KP a bit of a break. But at the same thing, ads wouldn't have broken the bank for them. Yeah. So I do think he's a really good signing.
I tell you what, thank God that he's playing 13. What do you reckon, a year we've been saying that he's a 13?
Yeah.
Raiders playing 13. He's been outstanding ever since he's moved there. And he could be exactly, I know you want Kurt Mann there. I think he's exactly what the Knights needed.
Well, no, I'm not going to say I want Kurt Mann there, but Kurt Mann, when he's played 13, has been unreal for Newcastle. What direction do you think they go with? Do they play Elliott at 13 or Mann?
For sure. I think they play Elliott at 13, for sure. Okay. I just think Kurt Mann, he's the perfect 14. He's the perfect 14. He really is.
He's almost a hindrance to himself, how good he is.
Yeah, he's just, in today's game, he's the perfect 14. And I also think for Mann to play 6, he needs a gun 7, like a structured, not even a gun, just a structured as anything 7. And there's recent reports that Hastings is going to be offered by the Knights, which I love that signing if they do. Now, that's where I could see a Hastings and Mann really work well together. But I can't see like a Milford and Mann or a Clifford and Mann or a Clune and Mann. I think that you need a really dominant, structured 7 for Mann to be a 6. I think in today's game he's a perfect 14. But we'll get to Newey anyway. Great signing, Elliott. Great signing with Elliott.
He also played, like what a lot of people don't know, a lot of halves throughout his junior career, Adam. And as he got bigger and bigger, as he came into grade and whatnot, that he became a forward naturally, but has a lot of experience as a junior, as a half. So the ball playing is there, and I really do think we're sort of scratching the surface of what he can be capable of.
Sure.
He's also had a lot of injuries throughout his career. As we said, a few off-field things, but he's developing something.
And as much as he has dropped the ball a couple of times off-field, I think it overshadows how much work he does off the field for communities and charities. And he's going to be a real, and they obviously get Millie Boyle as well for the NRLW, the Knights, and keep an eye on the Knights in the NRLW because their recruitment drive has been insane over the last few weeks.
We're going to get to the Knights because, tell you what, sorry Knights fans, jeez. And I can feel your pain, trust me. Broncos have been struggling, we bounce back, but anyway, I think it's a great signing. Also, Olam re-signs for the Melbourne Storm. I just want to, till 2026, what an incredible story. We try to think about this. I grew up with, not much money, like hand-me-down soccer boots, and, sometimes we'd be like, oh, we don't have enough money we've got to eat bread for tonight, which is, it's not that, it's whatever. It's just, you didn't grow up with much money?
No.
You didn't grow up with much money? You're a rich sicko. You're a rich sicko. Did you grow up with much money?
I'm
comfortable?
Yeah, we'll find. Yeah, we'll find.
Now, compare that to where Olam comes from. They have access to not even close to what we have access to. You can be the poorest kid in this country, outside of, certain, areas of the country, but most normal Aussie kids, the poorest of the poor, will still have 1,000 times more access to what a young PNG boy or girl might have. For this guy to come across, he's got his physics degree. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
He's literally a professor.
He's
a professor of physics, and no one knows it. No one knows it. Gets that at his university because that's where he started playing rugby league at his university. So he wasn't even got his physics degree, comes to Australia, signs a long-term deal with a club that never until this year gave out long-term deals. Like, I didn't even think Smithy signed a 3 or 4 year deal. It was always, 2 years. And me and Smithy are best mates, as you guys know. And he comes over, gets the deal like the way he did. I think it's an incredible achievement. And honestly, if they made a movie about his life, I'd watch that shit. 100%.
It's incredible, and mate, like he's been a genuine strike centre in this Melbourne team for a long time. Was it last year that they forgot to put him on the Dally M?
Then he won Dally M Centre.
He won it. Yeah. Fuck, good God, that just sums Olam up. And like even the professor thing, like I'm confident I could spend a week with Olam and he wouldn't mention it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. 100% either.
Like, and if you go actually, you know what? I'll try and chase him up to get him on the locker room because I know he has an incredible story that we're only scratching the surface of. But yeah, he's a professor of physics. Like, no wonder he can jam blokes. He's calculating them. Fucking force times mass times acceleration kills them. Congratulations. Now, bit of a talking point with, I wanted to bring up, and it's, it's not a big deal, but something I did know. So Ivan Cleary again wasn't able to coach the side this week. And this has been going on for probably 6 weeks now, maybe even more. And I just thought, do you reckon that may have something to do with Cleary struggling a bit in Origin? Like his old man just seems like it must be pretty serious if he can't even go to a game, whatever it is.
It's blood clots in his legs, so it's
hell.
pretty full on. Yeah, mate, it might be playing a role. I as we said before, I don't think he played poorly enough to cop as much shit as he did in Origin. But
crazy.
I don't think it couldn't possibly not be on your mind.
Well, it's
it
just
has
like,
to play a role.
Like, sometimes it's nearly like 100% of the time, or maybe it's about 80% of the time, there's something always going on in someone's, like when you see a little bit less from someone, you go, there's probably something else going on. I just wanted to bring that out. Like, your own dad's going through that. You've got the pressure of the state, like literally the pressure of the state on your shoulders. I think just cut the bloke a bit of slack. And he came out and killed it on the weekend.
And, safe to assume they're also probably closer than your average father and
100%.
son.
Absolutely. So, I hope Ivan gets better. Sending our best wishes to Ivan. Very concerning that he's unable to coach, and everything he's achieved there is absolutely. He's changed the game of rugby league. Crazy impact. What do you think? Do you think it had any impact? It might be weighing on you a little bit.
Look, I don't think so. Only because it was such a one-off performance for Nathan. I mean, him bouncing back on the weekend against Newcastle. There's never been more of a lay-down misere I've ever seen. Like, he was always going to come out and bounce back. For Nathan Cleary to play two poor games in a row is unheard of. If we saw numerous build-up, maybe, but like, who knows what's going on there. I'm sure it's on his mind and not helping, but as we said, he wasn't great in Origin, but it's one game of footy. You can't be at 100% effectiveness every single game of your career. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, but yeah. Best wishes to Ivan, mate. Hope he coached me at the Warriors, so best wishes to him. Hope he bounces back. Team of the week brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. It's not really brought. I mean, it kind of is, but it also isn't. I'm just going to make it up on the spot. Brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. Next Wednesday, 6 p.m. We got Bloke Jumpers. We got Bloke Truckies. They're a limited amount. They sold out in 5 minutes last year. So if you want them, guys, make sure to set your alarm. I can't stress that enough. The amount of people that message me in a couple of hours after, like, oh, I missed out. I'm like, just set your alarm because you got to be there at the start. There's a limited amount. And some people say, why don't you just order more? It's not that simple. We have literally been waiting for these jumpers for like about 8 months. So it's really hard for us to predict what it's going to be. And also, you don't want to be stuck with all these jumpers that you paid for and you can't get rid of them. Even though that, fortunately, the bloke community doesn't seem to be a problem. But anyway, limited amount. Set your alarms. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, so not in a couple of days. Next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Now, team of the week. My team of the week is brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. Number 1, Drinkwater. Number 2, Fox. 3, Seve from Storm. 4, Campbell Graham. Number 5, Shiraz I know he mixed between centre and wing for the Dogs, so I just sort of be a bit cheeky, put him on the wing. I think he has been outstanding ever since he debuted. Shiraz has been an unsung hero on that side. And the positive thing for the Bulldogs that isn't so positive for some other sides that we're going to get into is at least with the Doggies, you're seeing some juniors. If juniors are coming through and playing well, it's a good sign of a healthy club, or at least a healthy future. It's why the Broncos, even though it was the darkest day ever, you could sit there and go, at least we're healthy with our juniors. Clubs like the Knights and the Titans, who I'm really concerned for at the moment, there's not really many juniors coming through there from there. Anyway, we'll get to that. Burton at 6, I mean, hasn't he? I think putting Flanagan there with him and staying with Flanagan has opened Burton up. Now, Burton will get all the praises, and rightly so. But I can't stress enough how important it is for halves to be able to play together. Anyway, we'll get to that in the Bulldogs second. Sorry, guys. I apologise.
Wait.
Tarpane at 8, outrageous, honestly. Aloye at 10. Olakawatu at 11. If Olakawatu is in the form back around the comp, I'm not here. He is unbelievable right now, at least in top 3. Kikau, Taumalo at 13. Max King at 14. Carrigan at 15. Young at 16. That's Hudson Young. And then I had Flegler at 17 and Tino at 18. Who'd you have, Gurino?
My team of the week also brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. Ruben Garrick at fullback. On the wings, I had Fox and I had Mulatalo. I think he's been sensational for the Cronulla the last few weeks. I had Seve and Herbie Farnworth in the centres. Burton at 6. Nathan Cleary in the 7. I had Tapane and Tino up front with Robson in the 9. Olakawatu and Kikau on the edges. Taumalolo in the 13. Then my bench was Aloye, Carrigan, Horsburgh and Ezra Mann.
To me?
My team of the week brought to you by Cooma Stallions Rugby League Association. Ruben Garrick at fullback. I love each week, there's just positions that are absolutely stacked and some that you're scraping at the bit to find a player to put in there. Wingers this week were unbelievable.
Yep.
I went with Josh Adokar and Brian Toto on the wing ahead of some serious try
like Johnston, 3 tries.
Yeah.
Shiraz, I think he scored a double.
Katoa.
Yeah.
Brian Toto, 270 metres backing up from Origin,
Crazy.
11 tackle bus. Centres, Seve and Herbie Farnworth, Matty Burton and Luai in the halves. Went a little bit cheeky there and picked a couple of 5'8", but thought Luai deserved to be in there. Joey Tapane and Alawai at front row. Reece Robson 9. Olakawatu kick out. Taumalolo back row, so exact same as yours, Kempy. Bench was Flegler, Fasua Malawi, Maxi King at the Dogs, and Ezra Mann.
Yeah, I mean, Ezra Mann. Doesn't he look slick? We'll get to it, though. We'll get to it, sorry. I'm blue balling you guys. Now, let's get to Cowboys v...
Sorry, I think I wrote it down wrong. I think it's Kiraz.
Oh.
Kiraz.
Okay, it's Kiraz.
I wrote it down wrong.
K-I.
And I literally messaged you, didn't I?
I know, that's, yeah.
You
As soon as you said it, I was like,
motherfucker.
fuck.
You motherfucker. I messaged him last night and said, it's not Shiraz, it's Kiraz. And this motherfucker stitched me up. And guess what? Everyone leaves, fuck, Danny doesn't know how to fucking say the names. But it's fucking this guy writing this shit in front of me.
My apologies.
No, all good. To be fair, though, in your defence, I did send Shiraz first. So that is on me. Cowboys versus Dragons. Major talking point for me from this was 2 things, but the main one. So a year ago, Peyton challenged Taumalolo to be even better. Said earlier this year he thought Taumalolo could work on his passing. Taumalolo in this game's passing was probably the best passing game I've ever seen him do. Now, Peyton has come out and said he may have been a bit too harsh on Taumalolo. And whether that's true or not, we'll never know because we can't go back in a time machine. What we do know for sure is Taumalolo now has a passing game. And that is a scary, scary prospect. What do you think about what I just said, Timmy?
Mate, it's 2 weeks in a row now where it's come from nowhere, where it's unbelievable. And, there are 2 types of locks pretty well in the NRL. There's the big barnstorming type of lock that eats meters up and gets quick play the balls, which has been Taumalolo for the last 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. And then there's that link role, like your Isaiah Yo's, your ball passing, your Victor Radley's. They're very different roles. Taumalolo is now both of those things, which is so terrifying for oppositions. And he's, this term gets used a little bit too often, but he's taken his game to a new level in a way we didn't think that maybe he was capable of.
Garrett.
And I mean, like you just mentioned there, how Todd might have been harsh on him. You know who else Todd was harsh on? Scott Drinkwater.
Yeah.
Who are probably their 2 form players in this team at the moment. They're both playing incredible. I think Taumalolo, it's interesting, as you said, for so long he was just your meters guy, it wasn't really too much to his game, and I thought that was bringing the Cowboys down for a long period of time. Todd Payten himself, like, he was a cracking ball-playing forward.
Yeah.
Like, you go back to 04, I think he'd left.
It's a bit of a modern 13, really.
Mate, he would have. Well, that's, you go back and you watch that 2005 Tigers side. Todd Payten, he was going to go to England. He was done in the NRL, and Tim Sheens reached out and said, I can do something with a ball-playing guy like him. And he built the entire Tigers game around the way that they moved the ball around. They went on to win a comp. I think he scored the last try in the grand final that night for them. Toddy Payten too, yeah. So it's good to see him having that impact on Taumalolo, and now that he is that double threat of not only meters but ball playing, it just opens up the field so much. Because you have to commit 3 guys to him.
It's crazy. Like, his line break assist was literally like a half. He ran over his line, got to the player, isolated him, boom, hits who did he hit on the chest? Was it Graham? Not Neem, no, sorry, it was the other, here he is. Was it Gilbert? I think he hit Gilbert maybe. Anyway, incredible ball playing. I thought he had 2 line break assists, but when I went back and watched, he created the space for Townsend to hit Lukey, and Lukey made a line break. So, Taumalolo doing this kind of stuff is incredible. I also appreciate and respect the humbleness of Taumalolo. He very easily could have said, "Hoi, brah, nah, I'm literally one of the greatest ball running forwards of all time, bar none." Matter of fact, if you said Taumalolo was your greatest forward of all time, I would be like, that's reasonable. Him on his day could go toe-to-toe with any forward, and put it this way, there's probably been no forward that's done what he's done meters-wise and ball-running damage-wise yet. So Taumalolo's just gone to a new level, which is scary, because what does that do? That puts the Cowboys in a position where they've got a player that doesn't have to play Origin, so he can play through Origin series and keep the team. As long as you've got Townsend and Taumalolo on the side, like, you've got enough people in there to create space for people outside. So really exciting times for the Cowboys. And I thought they were clinical. Just want to send a shout out to Helam Lukey. Obviously, season-ending ACL injury, mate. That's, terrible news. And it's sad because, with Nanai being out, we were just starting to see Lukey get the opportunity to show what he can do. And he's such a good ball runner. So just hang in there, mate. I honestly think Lukey will play Origin within the next 2 to 3 years, probably 3 years. I can see him coming off the bench for Queensland. I'm pretty sure he's a Queenslander, so hang in there, mate. Reece Robson, I thought he was outstanding. I think that he's really developed his game. I would have said, at the start of the year, he may fall the way of becoming a lock, because his ball playing and his ball selection wasn't that crisp. Like, when you look at his passes, say, to compare like a Blake Brayley, you would say there's a bit of work to do. I think he's worked hours and hours on it, and he's getting better and better every single week. What stood out for you this game?
Just on Luke as well, we obviously wish him all the very best. Could this cause a bit of a domino effect? Could we see Luciano Leilua released early to go up there?
Mate, I can't see Tigers releasing anyone. They're so desperate not to finish on the bottom. It would be the dumbest decision ever.
Geez, if you are Leilua's management, though, you're reaching out. I think it's pretty obvious he was a Madge guy over the last few years.
Yeah.
Madge isn't there now. They've got a roster spot. He could go up and, contend to play finals footy, win premiership up there.
I totally get that from Luciano's and Cowboys' perspective, but we have to remember, Tigers took a punt on Luciano. He was at the Dragons, pretty unfit, had a lot of potential, but just never really developed into the man that we thought he could be. Tigers took a punt on him. And without Tigers taking a punt on him, he would have got the big deal up in North Queensland. And so I personally believe he owes it to Tigers to see the year out, help them stay off the bottom of the table. But if I'm his manager, and my job is not to fucking be loyal to anyone, it's to get the best result for my player, I'd be asking the question. What do you think, Timmy?
A couple of things I took out of this one. The first one was Taumalolo post-game, and he was saying pretty disappointed by letting 12 points in, which just says it all for the Cowboys for me.
Cowboys fans are going, yeah baby. Oh, say it again, JT.
And that, it ties into a stat I saw after the game on social media somewhere, so I'm sure it's 100% legit without checking it. Cowboys' best defensive effort last year was 18 points conceded. They've held teams to 12 or less in 10 of 14 games this season, which is a tremendous, sort of goes into your stats from a couple of weeks back, like next level.
What's their second half? Isn't they got a crazy second half where they've
conceded 6 points
in like 8 games in the second half of games?
Yeah, so the defence is one thing. The other one was, there was a moment there, I think it was pretty early on in the game, and they were coming off their own line, and they just went whack, 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 and just fed it across field with this real quick, slick ball movement, like quite Melbourne-esque what they do. And I was just like, this is the sign of just a team flying on confidence.
Massively.
To be able to do that, and it's sort of, I hope to see it chime into the game a little bit more and more as they get better and better, but they're just becoming so exciting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, you know what else is I'm just becoming such a big fan of is Tommy Dearden. Fuck, I love the way he rips in.
How confident was he the other night?
Oh, it was honestly, if you needed an example of what Origin camps can do for people, look at Tom Dearden on the weekend. He looked like a veteran ball player, confident as everything, calling overcalls and dominant defence, good kicking, a couple of good short kicks. Like, he looked super, super confident, backed his ability. Yeah, I thought he was outstanding the other night. Tuolagi, far out, he's playing good footy. And that's the sign of a great coach. It's like you've got these guys that some would say not lucky to be playing first grade, but they're not cemented first graders. They've gone all the way from cementing themselves to some of the best in the comp, like some of the best in the comp. What you got there, Matty?
It's 16 16 points in second halves in the last 9 games.
So you're averaging about 2 points every second half.
Yeah, and that includes games against Melbourne, games against Para, games against Penrith. Like,
incredible. And it shows you, like, if you wanted a gauge of like where is their mental toughness at, look no further, because like when the going gets tough, they obviously absolutely get going.
Who's your Xavier Coates replacement? Tuolungi, or is it Hammer?
Probably Tuolungi. I think coming out of his end, his ball carries coming out of his own end are great. I think we've got enough strike. I think Selwyn brings us that strike that we need. I would go for another big body on the sting there. Probably. Who would you go?
Consider Corey Oates? Oh, I'd go Tuolungi as well.
I would have selected Corey Oates over Coates initially.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm selecting the team now, I'd select Oates for sure. I think he's been outstanding.
Yeah. So I think Billy already said it'll be between one of the two Cowboys boys.
Yeah. Well, Billy's going like youth, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to, like, being a new coach. Yeah. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they were talking about the reason why Oates, was looked over was because he is, 27, 28, whereas they want to build something.
And I mean, Tuolungi also has this combination with Val Holmes as well. True. So that matters for me.
That matters a lot, yeah, 100%. It's crazy. Like, honestly, 12 months ago, this Cowboy side literally had no Origin players other than Holmes. So, yeah, look, mate, the Cowboys, they look special. I thought that they just every week where I wait for them to have that bludger, where I wait for them to go, oh, okay, it was a good run, but they've still got some deficiencies. It just doesn't seem to be happening.
I loved in this game, like, Lume Lu scored on the last play pretty much, but the try before that they scored was in the 43rd minute. There was 30 minutes there where it wasn't exactly clicking for the Cowboys, and they were happy just to kick deep and just defend, just to get their way through the game. I think they are the real deal. I don't think they can win a comp this year. Just because
Billy reckons they could challenge for a premiership.
Which made me double.
If Billy says it, it's going to get to a point where it's like whatever Billy says, fucking we agree with. The test for me was like, they lost their players last week and they were outstanding. That's where I go, well, shit, maybe they are the real deal. What do we think? Are they the real deal?
I think they're a top 4 team.
Yeah,
but I still think the gap between Penrith and everyone else is just so big. Like, and I always have Cowboys fans, Parramatta fans blowing up because I say I don't think they can win a comp. It's not because of them; it's because of how good Penrith is. Like, you have to be able to beat that team on the big stages. Cowboys played them a few weeks ago, and I thought they did so well against them. Cleary was forcing dropouts everywhere, and they got 75% of them back off short dropouts. So they won a heap of possession their way, 22-0.
Yeah.
And I thought Cowboys played really well. Still 22-0.
Yeah, they had a lot of errors in them, though. They defended really well. I thought they'd attacked. They had quite a few errors.
I don't think it was Penrith's best game either.
Yeah, I agree Penrith right now are out and out at the top. But I do think that when it gets to finals footy, like, anything can happen. You just get pinged with one, put it this way, if Eels can do it, I think other teams can do it. What do you reckon, Timmy? Are they the real deal?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as Guru, to be honest. I think they're certainly the real deal, but I think come the big stage, and look, they've proved me wrong, and all of us wrong time and time again, so what's to say they can't do it again later this season, but Penrith leaps and bounds ahead of the rest. And I know they towed Melbourne up a while ago, but if we've got two full-strength teams come finals time, my money's still on Melbourne every day of the week. I think it's sort of that bridge from Penrith to Melbourne, and I still think there's a gap from Melbourne to third.
As in, your money's on Melbourne to beat Penrith?
On Melbourne. No, the Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Come
to
a
beat the
prelim
Cowboys.
final,
yeah,
for example.
Okay. Look, I think second week of the finals, I can see them getting there. Second week, maybe even into a prelim. I can see them getting to a prelim. But yeah, to beat both the Storm, obviously, I don't believe it's a sure thing where Penrith can definitely beat them. But yeah, obviously, Penrith would be the favourites, Storm would be the favourites. But I don't know. I like what I'm seeing at the Cowboys. I really do.
It's going to be huge for North Queensland if they can finish top 2 and they get a home final. If they can drag someone up to North Queensland in that first week of the finals, then get a week off, that'd be huge for them.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. Like, you don't want to... Obviously, it's great to finish top 4, but if you're third or fourth and you have to go to Penrith or Melbourne, it's going to make life hard.
Mate, super hard.
Cowboys, Broncos, week 1 of finals, Townsville.
Could you imagine?
I'll probably have the A-League on, but I'm
sure. So look... The good thing is like, look how far they've come and look how much they can build. Really exciting times. I thought Lemilu? Is that how you say it?
Lumelu, yeah.
Lumelu, I thought he was outstanding.
Well, mate, there's a few guys in this competition that have, they're outside backs, not getting spots in teams that have turned themselves into back rowers, like Jamin Salmon at Penrith, and just playing a role. You can see he's put on a fair whack of weight, and he's like that palm that he put on at the end of that game.
Massive.
It was huge. Ben Hunt did not deserve that.
No, not at all.
The last bloke in the world that deserved that. I thought Cohen Hess, I thought he had his best game in a while on the weekend too.
Yeah.
I've never been a huge Cohen Hess fan, especially since they've been using him as a middle forward, but I thought he was really good the other day.
Yeah, so look, exciting times. Cowboys, I think we pretty much lock in. They'll play finals footy, which is an incredible achievement. We say it every week, but so many people didn't believe they could do it. They've done it. They've got a young squad. Townsend's been incredible. So exciting times. Now on to the Dragons. Biggest talking point probably coming out of this. Now it wasn't his fault that they lost the game at all. But my biggest talking point is a guy like Zach Lomax. I think when at the start of the season I said to you, Guru, I was like, the problem with a guy that has a flick like that is they can start just doing it constantly because it's such a big play. It's a unique asset that no one else has, and it seems to work most of the time. But unfortunately, when it stops working, it stops. Like, you can have a drop ball once in a game, but you start like 2 or 3 or in crucial moments, it doesn't work. You can all of a sudden go from the hero to the villain. And I just think with Zach Lomax, he's just got to strip everything back. Because I always found obviously Zach Lomax is way more progressed in his career than I was, but I always found when I played footy, if you got there and just did all the hard work, all the non-flashy stuff, the flashy stuff just appears. Like, it just appears. It comes. And I think with Zach, who does do the hard work, he ran for 140 metres on the weekend. It's not like he doesn't do the hard work. But I think for Zach, I would just go way back to basics. Don't even think about the flick. Put it this way, like, if your team needs you to flick to win, you got problems. You know what I mean? If they need... Now, that flick is great and it can get points, and maybe in a big game where everything's on the line and you can do it and you win, that's great. But if the Dragons need weekly for Zach Lomax to pull off a crazy play like that, then clearly something is wrong. And so if I'm Zach, I would just take it all back. Go back to just going, I'm just going to take 20 hit-ups or, 15 hit-ups, and I'm not even going to think about flick passing. I'm just going to get through my set. And then in a game or two, that's when I might consider when it's on or an attacking ball, or at the very least, just only the flick pass when you're on the fourth, it's good ball, not on the first, coming out around. What do you think about Zach Lomax's situation at the moment?
Yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for Zach. I almost think Lomax is too gifted for his own good sometimes. And I know what you said about how, if the Dragons need him to do that, something's wrong. I kind of feel like if the Dragons are going to win, Lomax does need to do something every week, and I think he feels that as well. Like, I feel like if it isn't Lomax creating something or it's not Ben
That's
Hunt.
my point, though. Like, that's unfair on Zach.
Oh, it's unfair 100%.
And he should take a step back and go, all right, I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability, and then we can talk about other stuff. Because right now, everyone's going to blame Zach for that when for their loss when there was way more issues in that side than Zach flicking.
Yeah, and I think you could tell that Lomax was frustrated too. There was a moment there where he threw another pass that went over the sideline and he kind of sprayed his winger. Definitely wasn't his winger's fault. And I thought that was very out of character for Zach based on what I've seen of him and the small interactions that I've had with him. But mate, he's just got, it sounds crazy, but it must be hard when you've got that much ability and you can do this stuff.
Well, this is the perfect scenario of a player that may outgrow his team in the sense of Zach Lomax may eventually get to a point where he's like, I'm sick of like just constantly grinding at the bottom of the table. I'm going to take a pay cut and I'm going to go to one of the top tier teams where they don't need to rely on my flick pass and I can be the player I want to be. What do you reckon, Timmy? What would you say to Zach?
Yeah, I think first of all, you boys summed it up. He's a star, Zachy Lomax. He wouldn't look out of place in a Blues jersey if called upon.
100%.
I do think this has been coming for a while, though, the flick pass that has led to an opposition try. I think it might have been in the Charity Shield this year or even round one or very early on, and he pulled off one of the most absurd flick passes to might have been Ravalaar or something for a try, and it was just mesmerising. All year, he's been trying to recreate that, and balls have been going to ground or going out, and it hasn't been coming off. And at times as a footballer, you've just got to play the percentages, and it's such a low percentage play that you've got to sit back and go, just don't do it. And it's so enticing. I want to do that magical ball again and get the headlines. And Stephen Crichton, to his credit, for a bloke so young in his career, he's really found he knows his time to pull it out, and he's setting up so many tries with a more high percentage flick pass. And by that I mean he gets in contact with one bloke and just goes whack.
Yep.
Lomax will do it with three blokes on him at times.
Crazy.
And he's just trying to throw like nutty them through the legs to the winger, over the head, whatever. He just needs to rein it in. And it's not a big drama, but your coach has also got to come in and say, mate, we don't need you doing this. You know, when it's on, but you don't need to push it every game.
Yeah. I think as well, and to your point as well, Guru, like we have to empathise the position Zach's in. His team is currently sitting at the bottom of where are they sitting now? They're sitting 10th with 13 points. So, I'm sorry. They're sitting 10th with 14 points. So they're still like within striking distance of the 8. But outside of him, they don't really have that much. You know, they've got Benny Hunt, who's working his ass off. Amone does come in and help sometimes, but it's almost left up to Zach to do that. And I think he just needs to be more selfish and just be like, okay, I don't need to do that. Just get through my sets. Because the unfortunate thing at the moment is that like he was in line for maybe an Origin call-up. You know, after the performance on the weekend, unfortunately, probably hurt his chances a little bit. So,
and that's the thing that makes it so hard is that, you know, he's getting criticised because he wants to win games of fucking football.
Yeah.
He's happy to have the ball in his hand and take risks to try and win games of football. Sometimes you're going to roll snake eyes and it's going to go against you. When it goes against you, you look shocking, like he has on the weekend. But for the age he's at, and, you know, I love that he's got this much ability and he knows it, and he knows that he wants to impact games.
Yeah.
It's not going to always go his way, and he'll learn hard lessons in the first few years of his career, but God, I'd rather a guy like him with his ability to be trying to influence games than just standing out there getting a cold. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You just got to find that balance.
Got to find that balance.
Too much, and
got to find that balance because it's incredible ability what he has. Just gotta, and Zach's a fantastic guy. I think you'll find probably next week he'll come out and play a very up and down game of footy and just get through the. I mean, even if you just say to him as a coach, like Anthony Griffin just says, basically, mate, you can do the flick pass, but it has to be in good ball at the very least. Outside of that, just hold the ball. Just hold the ball.
You've obviously spent time with Hook. What do you think he would have said to him after this?
Well, it's interesting because like Hook is a very simple game plan kind of guy. I'm not sure what Hook would say because Hook makes some decisions that I'm a bit unsure of, that I'm not sure how he comes to it. But I think Zachy Lomax will bounce back bigger than ever. And I think that if any fans that are a bit overly negative on Zach, just remember that, you know, this is a bloke trying to win games. You guys are currently sitting outside the 8. Without Zach, like, man, when it comes to like breaking the game open the way he can do it, there's not very many centres in the comp.
He's going to win you more games than he loses.
Yeah, I think so. And so we have to remember as well, like when you guys were struggling last year, it was like literally your best player.
Yeah.
Or outside maybe Benny Hunt. But I think he'll bounce back. It's just all about balance. It's just all about doing the boring stuff, getting through it. Because far out he's dangerous. He's probably out of all the centres in the game, outside of maybe Katoni Staggs, he's probably the best to just create. When you think that his centre has him, and it's like, oh, the centre's just guiding him to the sideline, there's no room here. He just somehow creates room for himself. He's just so good at it. So I think he'll bounce back in a big way. And this is the perfect example of just a young rookie. This is what you learn over time in the NRL. It's honestly what it is. In a year or two's time, I guarantee you he's going to have that flick mastered to where he flicks it only at the right time. Outside of that, what do you think of the Dragons, Guru?
Yeah, disappointing. Mate, if Ben Hunt wasn't in this team, fuck, they'd be in all sorts. I think I saw a tweet yesterday that said something like, if we had 17 Ben Hunts, we'd be a top 4 team. And, mate, just the ticker that he plays with, the way that he just goes at every single game, he's alive on everything. He would have, like the amount of times over the years that he's backed up after Origin, like he would love to have a spell, but similar to Lomax, I think he knows he can't. And it's credit to him. I thought their pack, they were okay. They're just, it's like they run out with the 8 same forwards. Like there's no, they don't have that point of difference in their forward pack. When I look at them, like you've got Laurie, you've got the Molo boys, Blake Laurie, like they're all very stock standard front rowers. You don't have that big explosive guy. You don't have that different body shape like a Campbell Gillard or like a Sean Lane for Parramatta. They're all just very cookie cutter, sort of the same, which is the team that Hook's trying to build. But God, it's hard when you don't have that real flashy talent out wide.
Yeah, well, if you got a team like that, you can't complete at 67%.
Yeah, you've got to be on and you've got to do all the small things perfectly.
And that just killed them. Like, it killed them. They could barely build any momentum up because they just kept making error after error. Like, Lomax flicked passes, and then I think the next set, Moses Mbai kicks it out in the full, and it's just, like, far out. Too many, it just accumulates. It accumulates, and before you know it, you're going, we're not even in this game anymore because they've just put too many points on.
Surely Andrew McCulloch has to be the starting 9 in this team. Like, with all due respect to him, like the kick out in the full, the one where he hit Josh Maguire down the short side, like it just wasn't on. And you could see that the whole left side for the Dragons was just standing there going, what the fuck? How did that?
That's what I'm not getting is like Andrew McCulloch hasn't been out for that long. He's a veteran. This is like a very hooked decision where you just
he's been back for 2 weeks, hasn't he? Like he's come off the bench.
I don't understand that decision.
Bud Sullivan isn't a 9. I'd rather see them at least have Bud Sullivan in there to get him into the game.
Yeah, it's a really strange choice. I don't know what's going on there. Does he maybe think he doesn't create enough? Maybe he's injured. It just doesn't make any sense, to be honest. You got to have Andrew McCulloch as your starting 9. You got to.
Like, imagine if they still had Reece Robson. Like, they were sitting there 3 years ago going, we don't need Robson, we've got Cam McInnes. Now they're both out of the building, they're both braining it.
Yeah. Tough times for Dragons. I thought Sully was outstanding again. Moses Sully continues to just chip away. He's another guy that, I actually don't think he'd go too bad in a bloody Blues jersey. I know he'd probably play for Tonga, I think. But he's a beast, man. He's an absolute beast. The amount of times that he skittles defenders and gets a quick play the ball for his team is just, you barely, like, it's nearly every single run. It really is. 12 tackle busts, 184 metres in a try in a losing side, 31-12. What do you think? Where are the Dragons going wrong, Timmy?
It's just not a side, a roster, should I say, that inspires a lot of confidence in me. And it's Guru nailed it pretty well. Like, you've got a bunch of forwards there who are solid enough and will do a job, but there's just no X factor. There's no spark. There's no one that concerns you on that team. It's Zach Lomax. And it can be quite hard to inject a gun centre at times, particularly if he's one of your only attacking weapons. You can sort of double down on him a little bit defensively. Ben Hunt, you look at the benefits of being a top-tier side at this time of the season. Yeah, you're going to have more Origin players, but you also have the luxury of resting them. And, the Cowboys, I know they were on the 2-day backup, but your Cotters and Nanais and these sort of blokes, the Panthers with Isaiah Yeo. But, Ben Hunt had to play this game. And he was really good. He was in everything again for them. But if they're a top 4 side, you can just go, Benny, just take the week off now, mate. Rest up. We'll get you good for next weekend, get you through this period. It's just tough going.
Yeah, really, really tough. A shout out to Jonathan Rubin. I thought he was outstanding. I thought he looked dangerous every time he got near the ball. So the The positive for the Dragons is they do have some good young guys coming through. Like every time a young guy comes in, they seem to do well. So it seems like they've got that a bit sorted. It's just, as you said, they're probably just lacking a bit of punch up front. And obviously those errors are killing them. The errors are just absolutely killing him. Jack DeBellin, 47 tackles, no misses. That's a massive knock. Just like when you look at these forwards numbers, so you've got Mbai runs for 20 metres, Blake Laurie 107, Jack Bird 84, Maguire 16, Jack DeBellin 91. Like it's not, you're probably going to need a little bit more punch from your forwards. But as you look at the, and Francis Molo was 80 metres. And whereas you look at the Cowboys forward pack, McLean 144, Reece Robson 120, Cohen has 79, Tim Gilbert 103. Lukey came off early, so he was only 17. Obviously, Taumalolo, 207. And then Lemilu, 117. So...
Anyway, like as you said, they have got a couple of good young guys coming through. And like I remember sitting here last year and we said the same thing. All of a sudden, Tyrell Sloan's fallen off the side of the earth. Bud Sullivan hasn't really kicked on. I would argue that Amon isn't probably the guy we thought he'd be at this point. So... I hope they can get it sorted, but I don't know where the Dragons are going. I don't know what their direction is.
Do you think I guess the concern is that we've seen some decisions from Hook. Do you think that they're playing not confident because he is?
I think so. I think they're walking around on eggshells.
And they're concerned about, getting dropped or whatever. Again, we don't know what's going on internally, but a guy like Amone, they pretty much publicly came out and said he may not be ready for first grade. He said it about Sloan. I wonder whether they're just struggling for a little bit of confidence there, maybe.
I think so.
Fair shout.
I don't know. Again, we don't know what's going on internally, but they definitely don't seem like a confident, up for it footy side.
Mate, like even a guy like Jack Bird, he's the one guy that isn't that sort of cookie cutter forward in their team. I mean, it's like they haven't worked out what his best position is yet. They're still sort of trying to work out how he can impact games. Like Jack Bird should be a guy that has 30 touches of a ball a game.
Yeah.
He's just...
Yeah. Do you think they need to go on the market? Get a big fish?
I think so. Yeah, I don't
forwards?
know who that would be. Probably a forward. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Like... You look back a couple of years ago, they pulled Paul Vaughan from Canberra and he turned into that guy.
Yeah.
It's hard to replicate that as much as they did it then. It's hard to find those guys. And, mate, I got to tell you, I don't think I'd be overly convinced to go to the Dragons.
They're in a really weird spot because they're not the basket case, bottom tier. They're still currently sitting on equal points for 8th, so they're not way out of it. But they also... Yeah, just that energy. I don't know. I'm just not getting that energy from him.
And like if I'm looking at Simon St. George, I'm going, Ben Hunt's 32. I mean, he is the beating heart of this team. When he's not there, there is nothing doing.
Yeah.
Like Ben Hunt's not going to play till he's 37.
You know what's really interesting is so many people made a big deal about his massive contract from Broncos to Dragons for many years. As if you'd pay him that, this, that, next thing. I think Dragons may offer him another $1 million to keep him.
They might. I think they might have to. They're
getting
value out of him at $1 million right now.
Because if they lose him, they are in a really bad spot. And so it turned all the way around to he may get $1 million contract when he's 33. And you know what? I probably wouldn't argue that much against it because if they lose Benny Hunt, holy, they're in a tough spot.
When you think about they could go out to the market and try and buy guys they would pay $1 million to get there for, they aren't going to be as good as Ben Hunt.
And, a bloke you pay $700K for or $800K, you may as well spend that extra $200K. So really interesting to see do you think Brucey stays?
I hope so. I still think that Wayne will be getting closer and closer to.
Ooh.
I think there's Ben Hunt and there's Hastings now, who Wayne's got a relationship with both of them. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them's the halfback round 1 next year.
What do you reckon, Timmy? Do you reckon they offer him $1 million again for just a 1 year, $1 million deal?
They could do. and it's one thing you said to me a while ago, one of the earlier podcasts that sort of stood out is that certain rosters, all right, a player might not be worth this much, but to certain rosters they are, and it goes back to when we spoke about Redcliffe, and if they were to sign a Cam Munster on like $1.8 million, well, he's probably not worth. Well, he's not worth $1.8 million. But if they've got that money to spend and don't have marquees, well, to that roster he is worth it.
Yeah.
And Benny Hunt to this Dragons roster, well, he is worth $1 million. Whether he's this sounds stupid, but whether he's $1 million player or not, he's worth so much to them because if they lose him, they're in all sorts. So other clubs, he wouldn't be worth $1 million to, but I hope he stays because he's the heart and soul of them at the moment, and it'd be devastating for the Drags to see him go.
Yeah, for sure. Look, the really good thing is, even after how much they seem to have struggled this year, the Dragons, they are still equal 8th on points. They're sitting on 14 points, which is the same amount of points as the Roosters. So have to give credit where credit's due because it hasn't been the best year for them. They haven't kicked on the way they thought they would. But if you said they make the 8 this year, that's a win year. That's a big year. So the good thing for the Dragons at the moment is they are still within striking distance. They play South next week, who they could beat. They play Canberra the week after, who they could beat. You never know. They could sneak into that 8, and all of a sudden, a season where it was like a bit meh turns into how good we're playing finals footy. So that's a positive.
It's going to be a big 2 week. As you just said, you got Dragons playing South and Canberra. Like they're 3 teams that are fighting out for that 7 and 8 spot. Yeah. It's going to be a big 3 weeks.
Because that'll create movement in that, especially South. They pip South and then Roosters drop another game. Boom.
Yeah, I mean, like if Dragons manage to win both of those, all of a sudden they're in the top 8.
Yeah. So disappointing week, Dragons fans, but that's the reality. The reality is you are still within striking distance. Through all of the different selections and players moving and this, that, you are still within striking distance. And I think any Dragons fan will be happy just with the finals game of footy this year. Then they can... Amono's got another year on his belt. Sloan does. Sullivan does. Faye guy on the wing there who's incredible in my opinion. Sully keeps getting better. And all of a sudden, and Zach Lomax also young. So there is, in my opinion, we'll speak about the Titans and Newey is who I'm concerned about. Whereas when I look at like the Dragons, I can see this young batch coming through that may pay a lot of dividends. Now on to the Titans versus the Rabbitohs. Make sure to grab a Bloke jumper, 6 p.m. next Wednesday. Also, make sure to grab a case of Bloke beer. We're in every single celebrations, Porter's Liquor, IGA Plus Liquor, and Bottle-O in New South Wales and ACT. That's right. If you've got celebrations of Bottle-O near you, they will stock Bloke in a Bar. Make sure to get in and grab a case. We're also in every single celebration superstore in Queensland, and we've got a store locator. We're nationwide. We've got a store locator on our website. You go to www.blokeinabar.com, you put in your postcard, it will show you and closest stockers of Bloke beer. And then our mid-strengths, they will be slowly filtering out into all Liquor Legends stores. Go to their website and it will show you where their stores are at. But Titans, Rabbitohs, wow. Let's talk about the Titans first. They currently sit on the bottom of the table, which no one predicted. There's, very, very few people would have predicted they are sitting on the bottom of the table. I am really, really getting concerned for the Titans because at the start of the year we said they got a young crew. You got to stick with them. We knew there was going to be ups and downs in the year. I don't think we knew it was going to be this down. Now the concern starts to be, is this the right group of young men to stick with? I still think we'd stick with them. Like, we don't know yet. It's only been a couple games. But if they finish the year on the bottom of the table, then you truly may have to ask the question, is this correct people to stick with? Now, in their defence, you look at the Broncos 2 years ago, bottom of the table, look at the Broncos now. The concern I have with the Titans right now, though, what juniors do they have? When you looked at that Broncos pack 2 years ago, you could go Carrigan, Flegler, all these young guys where you're like, I can see the potential everyone's talking about. David Feeder, Payne Haas. Everyone could see the potential in that pack, even though we weren't getting the results. My concern with the Titans is outside of Tino, that young forward pack, there really isn't. It's not this young pack where I can see the top tier of forward. Now, Moe Fotuaika, he's has had some solid games in the past. He's been okay this year. But outside of that, I'm a bit concerned about the future with the Titans at the moment.
Yeah, the Titans, it is getting tough to watch, mate. I mean, on the weekend, they obviously were without Fafita, without Brimson, Tino off the bench, but it's the same that we're getting every week when they are full strength. I had them at the start of the year in the bottom 4, but I didn't expect that they'd be this bad. I still thought that there'd be times where their young talent would get the job done and they'd pull games out here and there. And I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed in South Sydney. I didn't think they played well, realistically. And the Titans was still nowhere near their level. Tino came off the bench and scored 2 tries. One of them, he just got one-on-one with Cody Walker. Like, it's not going to happen all that often, realistically. So I'm very worried about them. And you're right, like, you have a look through their side. There aren't any superstar young guys coming through. Like, there is Mo Fotuaika. He's playing decent footy, but Fuck, I'll tell you what, if you were to put Mo Waker into one of these top 4 systems, he'd be an absolute juggernaut compared to what he is up there at the Titans. It's just, you just know that this is going to get worse before it gets better, I think.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, you sort of sit there and look at their side, and we touched on it last week, thinking there's just doesn't look like that good a roster. It's looking worse and worse every week. And then you make sort of excuses like, Fafita was out, Brimson was out, Tino backing up from Origin. Yep. But even when you put all those players in the starting team, which they've had at rough times this year, they've struggled a little bit with injuries, it still doesn't look great, but there's just no depth there. Like, there's a few in the back line that can come in when injuries happen. But
like Marzu was outstanding. But outside of that, you know.
There's not a lot coming through. Like, Tino and Fafita are going to get picked for Origin for a number of years, and they're going to be short on them at times. AJ Brimson will get injured, and when this happens, they just don't really have options to come in and replace these guys. So I just don't see how it gets any better for them anytime soon.
Tell you what shocks me on the weekend. Paul Turner picked at 6. You got Tanner Boyd, who was an Australian schoolboys halfback 3 years ago. They don't give him an option in the halves. They play him at hooker, and Aaron Booth still can't get a shot in this team.
Yeah.
Tell me it's not at the point where you at least roll the dice on Aaron Booth to see how he goes.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre. Like, how on earth Paul Turner won the race to the 6 jersey? That blew me away.
And the crazy thing is, you want to hear the craziest thing of everything about this game? They completed at 92%.
Fuck.
What?
You'd rather complete at 50 in that
100%. I would rather go out there and complete at 50% and get towed up than, complete at 92% and not shoot not fire a shot.
Wow.
And 2 of the tries, one of them was just Tino luckily on the edge with a much smaller Cody Orker. You take that away, you're looking at 30-10. And let's be honest, I don't think Titans for me never looked in the game. Maybe the first 20, but after that, I thought the Rabbitohs were pretty much in control. The Rabbitohs didn't play their best footy. The concern for me is that this is the next level of the Titans because they've got all their big dogs out, and no one expects them to. I don't think anyone expected them just to blow teams out of the water, but pressure is mounting probably on their coach at the moment. Not that there's been any word out of the Titans, but you'd have to say he's under pressure at the moment. He's sitting on the bottom of the ladder, and this is the performance that they toss up. And as you said, Timmy, it's a great point. It's like every week I feel like we kind of do make a bit of excuses for the Titans. Oh, they're missing Fafita, and they need this, and Brimo was moved to fullback, then he's moved to 6, and then Campbell. But unfortunately, even with all of their players back, they still have lost the same amount. Like, take this game out of it, they're still at the bottom of the table. Like, they're still at the bottom of the table.
We look at the Bulldogs, who, again, we'll get to more later, but I know we're going to, you've already touched on it, we'll talk about how something we rave on about every week, getting these combinations together, and they've stuck with Flanagan, and, it's only one game, but they're starting to show a bit they're really good. And the Titans, their spine, be it through injury or other issues, changes every week to get in cohesion. And yeah, there's injuries, but there's still no real plan B if, say, like a Jaden Campbell goes down. They're still flicking their 5'8" in Brimson to fullback, who Brimson was out due to COVID protocols this week. But when that changes every week, how the hell do you build any cohesion this side?
Yeah. I'm honestly feeling a bit sorry for Toby Sexton because it's... Look at Burton. Even Burton, one of the game's hottest young talents. You could sit there and say, out of all the young halves coming through, Burton probably number 1 at the time. At least in the top 3 of young halves. I'd probably, with the ceiling of potentially us. Even he, when it was chopping and changing, he was struggling at the start of the year of the Dogs. His last month of footy has been outstanding. And what has that coincided with? It has coincided with Kyle Flanagan being his 7 every single week. And Kyle Flanagan, he's never going to be the guy that sets the world alight, but he is going to be able to lay a platform for you. And I think we've noticed that with Burton, where Burton has just gone from a player where you're sitting there going, he's gone to a new club that's struggling. I don't know if he's ever going to reach the form he's going to reach to. Holy shit, he's like one of the best form 6s in the comp. Like, obviously, Munster would be number 1. I'd still have Dylan Brown up there. But I'd have him in the top 5, form-wise, over the last month at Burton. And that all comes down to combinations. And right now at the Titans, as you said, like, it is just... I would go as far. If Jaden Campbell goes out and Brimo is still injury-free, I would keep Brimo at 6. If that's the decision we've made, let's stick with the 6 and 7 of Sexton, because you're going to get so much more out of him at 6 and Sexton at 7 than you are at pulling him at fullback, bringing in another 6, then going, oh shit, then bringing him back and putting him back at, I just don't see. I don't see the benefit in that long term, especially as a young squad. As a young squad who everyone's aware we're building towards a future. Well, if we're building towards a future, let's stick with these combinations so that in 2 or 3 years' time, they know each other like the back of their hand. So really, really concerning times for the Titans. I really did not think that they'd be at the bottom of the table. Positives were Marzu was outstanding. He was an absolute wrecking ball. Firma had some good moments. Was there anything else that stood out for you guys? Obviously, Tino was incredible off the bench. 47 minutes, he ran for 177 metres, 2 line breaks, 2 tries, 26 tackles. Honestly, he's incredible.
We spoke about it earlier when talking about Nathan Cleary, how in that Origin side, you know that he's going to get the ball on every last tackle and kick every time. And you have a look at them on the weekend. Jermaine Osaka kicked the ball once. No one else kicked the ball except for Toby Sexton. 22 times.
That's what's surprising about Turner not even having a single kick. Like Turner's a 6, isn't he? He's a half.
Yep.
And then, granted, Sexton kicked for 700 metres. It was like fair play to him. But damn.
But I think we mentioned it last week. Toby Sexton's winning. He's got the most forced dropouts by a distance.
Yeah.
He had another one on the weekend. I mean, mate, I would argue that Toby Sexton's probably playing better than what I anticipated. All things considered.
Statistically, I do think he probably could have kicked on a bit more. Put it this way, I think he's played patches of footy better than I thought he would. Patches. I haven't seen him play an 80-minute game.
Being a young halfback in this team, he could have been heaps worse, though. He probably should have been heaps worse than what he has been.
How was that pressure on him where I didn't realise that, as you said, 22 kicks, 1 for Asako. Most teams in the comp have at least 3 kicking options. So the halves, for starters, to not see your other half kick a ball, if you had a hooker who was kicking and taking a bit of pressure off Sexton, like, all right, you can see how that happens. A lot of teams might have a Tedesco or a Pappenhausen who have a bit of a kicking game from fullback that take a bit of pressure off. But when Sexton is the sole kicker for this team at his age, with all the pressures going on, add into that they've got a rough and tumble yardage lock in sort of Tino Fasuamalawi, who, again, not a traditional ball-playing lock, which can take a lot of pressure off a young half. How's the pressure on poor old Toby Sexton?
But mate, even when you put their full-strength side in, when you think AJ Brimson, do you think, handy kicking game? I don't think it was Jaden Campbell.
And on top of that, Aaron Clark is not a kicking 9. And so, I'm starting to feel like Sexton, unfortunately, has been put in a really tough spot. Like, he hasn't been given players around him to support him in the role that he's got. You need more than one person in your spine that can kick. Like, that's a given, surely. Surely that's a non-negotiable that in your 9, your 6, 7 and 1, at least 2 people can kick solid, good footy.
No, mate, it's not like he also has like a Wade Graham that he can flick the ball to and he can do something on last. Like, it is him. Yeah. It is solely him. And God, it makes it easy for defenses to put pressure on the last tackles. I feel very sorry for Sexton. And I sort of started the year to you that, and if you took a 19-year-old Joey Johns and put him in this team, it would have been tough. It would have been difficult. He didn't have a ball player next to him. He didn't have a hooker.
Well, look at Cleary at the Panthers for the first couple of years. He had that really good breakout year, and then he got crucified for a couple of years. And now, very rarely does a 7 or 6 come into the grade and just start killing it. It takes quite a bit of time. So, although, again, this is not, he's a first grader and he's on decent coin, he should deliver. But I do think he's kind of been set up. I don't think he's been set up with the best opportunity to be the best he can be.
Well, mate, I hate to say it, but it's slowly becoming Ash Taylor all over again up there. If we're talking about Sexton in that same way in 5 years' time, right now it won't surprise me, unfortunately. Environment matters.
And we'll just say it quickly and move past it, because I know we say it every week, but the decision to get rid of an experienced half was not the best decision for Sexton. It wasn't the best decision for Sexton. Now, the positive, Kieran Foran is coming, and I think Kieran Foran is going to be outstanding for Sexton. So I will say, in Titans' defence, that I understand there's equivalence to Ash Taylor, but Ash Taylor never got a Kieran Foran to come in and help him out the first year. And so I will say that Titans, respect to them for, swallowing a bit of pride maybe and going, okay, we need to go out and get a number 6 or a 7 that's going to help guide this guy through. Maybe we thought he was a bit ahead of where we, thought he was going to get to this year. But yeah, outside of that, it's just it's unfortunate because the Titans right now, things could. I don't think that they will win the Spoon. I think that they'll be able to bounce back. But unfortunately, it's just one of those years where there could be some hard conversations to be had at the end of the season. I personally think that they need to all have a real sit down, and they probably have. But even as a club, and be, yes, we are young, but are we going to set standards that we do not negotiate on? Or are we going to allow little things to creep into our game here and there? So hopefully they bounce back. Really, really tough.
In saying that, mate, I'd like to say they're not going to win the Spoon either, but someone's got to win it. Canterbury just played out of their skin yesterday. The Warriors are going to go back to New Zealand in a few weeks. I mean...
they definitely could.
They definitely could. And unfortunately, that's the reality of it. It's tough down the bottom there of the ladder at the moment. It's brutal.
Yeah, because it's not like last year where it was like 2 bottom teams were just so much worse than everyone else. There's that bottom 8, on any given day, all teams could beat each other in that bottom 8, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, people have been so disappointed with how the Newcastle season has played out. They're 2 wins out of the 8.
Yeah, it's great. That is fucking wild. What do you got there, Matty?
Just want to point out something that I've never noticed before. But Tino signed to the end of 2026, right? But the last 2 years are actually mutual options. They're not, he's not actually locked in until 2026.
Wow.
And mutual options, it's just defined here as, I don't really know what it means, just both parties talk about activating the contract.
Mutual options are weird because it's like, you can just go, no, not doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's scary for Titans. If I was Titans, I'd be talking to Tino now about locking him in. Because is anyone doubting Tino's going to go on and, he is outstanding.
Especially when he's had a taste of premierships, grand finals.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a kid that's just come in and he's glad to be there. He's had a taste of being successful. Yep. Now he's at the other end of it.
Yeah. Wow. Really interesting. Really interesting. So hopefully the Titans can bounce back because they looked like they really looked like they'd turned the corner as a club at the start of this year. I really love the talk, the 5-year plan. And everyone makes jokes about that, but it's good to be able to have that. You need to have plans that go 3 or 4 years in the future with your juniors, with everything. And from what I'm hearing, they are putting in a lot of work to their juniors and that. But if, they've got to turn around the field, so hopefully they can. Now, on to the Rabbitohs. Really strange outing for me with the Rabbitohs. I don't know where to put them again. And I think we said this at the start of the year, week in, week out, it's going to be different. Massive rap to Cookie. Came out, I thought he was really good. 45 tackles, only 2 misses after Origin. But it wasn't convincing for me. It wasn't convincing. They're still missing that energy that they had last year. A win's a win, though. A win's a win, and they got the job done. It was up at Gold Coast, wasn't it? Mm. So you can't ask for much more than that. What do you think, Timmy, this game with Rabbitohs?
Yeah, I don't think there's been a game this year where I've even been close to thinking the Bunnies are back or anywhere near where they were last season. They're getting a really blessed run, the Bunnies of late. The Titans on the weekend without arguably 3 of their best 4 players out, plus Tino backing up from Origin. Just before that, they put a few on the Tigers. Make of that what you will. Before that, Raiders flogged them. Before that, just beat the Warriors, who have been a basket case themselves. Before that, Brisbane pumped them. Before that, Manly Seagulls. There was a send-off 10 minutes in, and they put 22 on them. So I'm waiting for them to click, and we say the same thing every week. When's it coming? When's it coming? Oh, they're just not been impressive at all, have they? And as far as I'm concerned, they're winning games.
Yeah.
And at this stage, that's all that matters. But if they want to even look like competing at the back end of the year, they're not even close to it.
Yeah, so Rabbitohs, if you had to grade it now, with everything that's gone, all the people that they've lost Bennett, lost Reynolds, we've been through it ad nauseum. Would you say this is a successful year or not a successful year so far?
I'm sort of caught in the middle. You obviously couldn't call it a train wreck. They're still in the top 8. But fuck, I just felt like watching that game yesterday, Rabbitohs played shit, but you never knew. You knew they were never going to lose. Oh, I hate those games. And when you're watching South Sydney and you've got Cody Walker, Damien Cook, Campbell Graham, Alex John, all these exciting guys, and they're still playing very average footy, but they're going to win because of who they're playing. I find them very frustrating to watch at the moment, Rabbitohs. I'd give their season maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
I think they're one of the biggest disappointments of the season. I think they're good enough that they can maybe not flick a switch, but I think they can build towards something far stronger and come back into the season. But if we're grading now, I wouldn't even say it's a middling season. I know they're in around the top 8, but what we expected from them, very disappointing.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a bit more lenient. I think it's a satisfactory year. With everything that could have gone wrong, with the way we've seen other clubs just fall apart after Bennett leaves, I think that we can still see the core of a top 4 side there. I think that, yes, it hasn't clicked, and yes, there are certain parts of their game that could improve. It's absolutely their completion rate. Like, it is, as long as they complete well, usually they can win games. So I'd give it a satisfactory, a pass mark at the moment. They definitely haven't gone better than I thought they would. And I think that, I'll be able to judge them much better once I see Latrell play a month of footy. Because we do have to remember, any team lost its superstar, like out-and-out superstar, after, and that's why I cut the Rabbitohs a bit of slack. They lost Wayne Bennett, Adam Reynolds, Dane Gagai, and essentially Latrell Mitchell. Now, I don't think that gets appreciated enough. I don't think we talk about enough that they lost their main guy, like literally their $1 million guy, even though he's not $1 million, but he's worth $1 million, Latrell. They lost him, or maybe 800 to 900 at the moment. They lost him and also everyone else, plus everything that happened. So I just want to see a month of footy with Latrell back in that side, because we have to remember Latrell's a generational talent. He does things that other people can't do, but also just having him on the field gives you that belief, that kind of, oh, wow, we can really do whatever we want to do because this guy can break games open. And I think Latrell, how he comes back is going to define how their season goes. If he comes back and he's struggling a bit, then I think they may slip out of the 8. If he comes back and kills it, I think they stay in the 8, maybe make the first or second week of the finals. So it all really hinges on getting Latrell back. Outside of that, I still think that they're a bit short on outside backs at the moment. I think,
That's exactly what we speak about, how important yardage is from your back 3. Their back 3 at the moment is Cody Nikorima, Alex Johnston, and Jackson Paulo. Like, without looking to other sides, it'd nearly have to be the smallest back 3 in the comp, wouldn't it? So when they're starting their sets off with that, that's where Latrell, take all this freakish acts aside, just that yardage will be so important for them. Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's interesting because, like, Paulo, he has some really, really good moments, and then sometimes struggles a bit. He's a big-ish body too. I wonder whether, do they have? Is he their next guy that they really believe in, or do they have more guys coming through? I'm really interested to see what their juniors would be doing. Tane Milner, he's played all right here and there, but hasn't really cemented his spot. It's just that, is it their right side? Because is Campbell and Johnson on one side?
They're on the left,
and Tane. And so maybe the decision, and I understand they lost players or whatever, but the decision to play 2 players that haven't played that much first grade together might be a bit unfair on both of them, because they're both, you're better off having experience, and which is interesting because I know Mansour, sometimes he can have poor reads in defence, but when it comes to like being a meter eater, being experienced, he may be able to help a few of the boys. So I'm interested to see why, if he's injured, or why he's not getting a crack over guys like, Paulo or Tane Milner.
I think that's a big thing in this South Sydney side. It hasn't been spoken about enough. Like, they obviously lost Dane Gagai, which was always going to hurt, but the fact that Mansour hasn't quite kicked on, but they signed him as a winger coming from a grand final team who killed it. Like, for him to be where he's at and not playing the level he is, I think that's really hurt South Sydney and their depth as well.
For sure, because he was the experienced guy. He was the guy, and you lose Gagai, you go, well, we've still got Mansour. He's played in grand finals, played for his country, played Origin as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
I think he's played Origin.
Definitely played for his country.
Definitely played for Australia. No, Mansour.
Yeah, he's played Origin.
And so, that probably has hurt him a little bit. I wonder why he hasn't getting a start. I wonder how he's going in reserve grade. Outside of that, some positives. I thought Keon, again, was solid. Thomas Burgess, a lot of metres. The good thing is their forward still packs a bunch of punch. We've got Tavita Totola with 155 metres, Thomas Burgess with 177, Keon with 165, Jai Arrow with 139. That's a fair bit of punch in your forward pack. So, going to be interesting. I think let's wait and see. When Latrell comes back, see how he goes after that first month, and judge from there.
Well, mate, they'd want to get it sorted by that first month because, as we've said a few times, round 19 onwards, they've got 6 games, 5 of them against top 8 teams.
Yep. Yeah. Now, on to Roosters v. the Storm. Interesting game, this one. 26-18. I feel like that flatters the Roosters a little bit. I thought the Storm were quite in control for a substantial part of the match. In saying that, I might be remembering wrong. You watch so much footy, sometimes you forget. But I thought the Storm were clinical. I thought they were dominant. I'm still a bit unsure as what the direction of the Roosters is. I say it every week, so sorry guys, but I will say Suwali was outstanding. Some of the plays he pulled off were incredible. That one where he jumped up, nearly dropped the ball, but then hit it back up off the deck was outstanding. And I think a couple of... Did he make some try savers? I'm not sure, but he played so well. Teddy, again, getting through a bunch of work. I don't know who the main guy... I mean, I know Kiri is, but the structures and all that, they just don't seem to be there at the moment for the Roosters. Yeah,
just talking on Joseph Suwali too. I texted you the other night. I was sort of joking, but half wasn't, when I sort of said, could he have been underrated? You think about how hyped he was coming into this season. For him to be anything but overrated has been an incredible effort, and he's lived up to every expectation, every bit of hype so far this year. He's been incredible.
Yep. What do you reckon, Timmy?
We Saturday Arvo went and played 9 holes of golf in a cart. We walked back to the pub afterwards. My mate goes to me, tell you what, I'm pretty bloody sore after that. An hour later, James Tedesco ran for his 600th metre in a game of rugby league in 3 days. And I just looked at him, mate, we're athletes, aren't we? Yeah, Teddy was unbelievable. Not that he was massive on the game, but to do that, backing up a few days later, is just such a mammoth effort. On the structure of the Roosters, it's just still that too many mouths to feed kind of issue, isn't it? We say it every week, but who's the key playmaker? Interesting now. Luke Keary, concussion, has a history of them. I don't know the latest on it, but we'll find out pretty soon. But there's every chance he sits out multiple weeks to get himself right. That they'll take a cautious approach, I'd imagine. If Sammy Walker becomes the dominant half in that team, it could benefit them with him becoming the dominant playmaker with a Drewy Hutchinson or maybe Joey Manu, whoever they go with it. Excited to watch him this weekend with Keary out. Hopefully Keary's all good and he's back sooner rather than later, but it could provide solutions for them in a funny way.
Yeah, look, it's the Keary Walker situation. Are we as confident it's going to work as we were at the start of the year?
I'm more nervous about it.
I don't know. I honestly thought they were going to be the best, arguably, at least a top 3 halves combo in the competition. Keary has come back from an ACL, which is obviously always tough to come back for. But on top of everything, that was his game. It's that high speed, high energy, in your face kind of footy. I'm just really struggling. And then obviously as well, Drew Hutchinson being in at 9, he's a great servant, tough as anything, really great for the club. But, is he the top tier 9s? Not really. And I understand they've brought Cheese in to be that. And then you got Nat Butcher at 13. I know Radley will come back, but I'm still a bit concerned about if they were losing, but I could see some flow in the way they play. I could be like, okay, but at the moment, I'm just not really seeing the same. Roosters of the last few years have just been, they've had this game plan and it was so clear as to what they were doing. This year, it just seems to be one set it's this, next set it's that. I don't know where they go from here.
I wouldn't be surprised if Timmy's spot on that Sam Walker really steps up over the next few weeks. But then before finals, you've still got to bring back Keary. You've still got to bring back Radley.
Yeah.
It's like you're delaying your teething problems to later.
Do you reckon the Roosters may take this opportunity to be like, look, we see whether Sam can be the 7?
Yeah, maybe.
Because they came 5th last year, I'm pretty sure, with Sam as a 7. And they go back to, all right, Sam, you be the 7, Keary, you be the 6, you be the running 6 you were before. Do you reckon they use it this month of footy, or if it is a month, I hope it's not a month at all, but let's say it's a couple of weeks or whatever, let's just see if Sam can be the 7?
Yeah, I don't think they have a choice now, realistically. I mean, who's going to play 5'8" next to him? I'd love to say Joey Manu, but then you've got one guy that can kick. I think they probably have to go with Hutcho again.
Well, Hutcho can kick out a 9. I wouldn't mind seeing Joey at 6. I really wouldn't. When he came there on the weekend, I loved it really. I think his first set, he set up a try with a kick. that grubber to Satilli, pretty sure.
But once again, if you do play Joey Manu at 6 in 5 weeks' time, you've got to blow up the entire game plan and change it so much because Joey Manu is so different to Luke Keary.
Yep.
Then you'll be Radley in as well. It's just...
For that reason, I think you're on the money.
Yeah.
For that reason alone, I think you have to give it to Drewy. Keep Manu at centre, keep these structures. You're right as well. Give Sammy the chance to say, all right, I'm the dominant halfback. Let's see where we go with this. If he kills it and the Roosters look good, well, then Keary comes back and plays second fiddle to Sammy Walker, which sounds funny, but I mean, if it works, it works. And it doesn't matter what happens. But he'll also get Sammy. Sammy was amazing last year in a depleted Roosters side every single week. Warrior Hargreaves should hopefully be back this week, if not next. Victor Radley's not too far off. It'll be a near full-strength team outside of Keary, so good to see what he can do.
In saying that, are they in a position to not just need to win the next 4 games? But they're 8th at the moment. I'm sort of talking about them as if they need to think long-term, but realistically, they need to think short-term because if they drop 2 games in a row, they'll be outside of the 8.
Which would be crazy. Yeah, so Roosters are they're in a really interesting spot, Only a month ago, I think they were in the top 4. Now they're on the edge of the 8. So really interesting times at the Roosters. Now, clearly, we say all of what we just said. They're still the Roosters with an incredible lineup. If there is one team, literally, if there is one team that next week rocked up and then went on a run to challenge for a grand final, it's the Roosters, in my opinion. I can't really see any other team doing that in the competition outside of the Roosters. Not do I mean run to win a comp. Obviously, there's teams that can go and run to win a comp. What I mean is a team that looks so unlikely to turn it around in a week's time. So they're absolutely still in the fight. But this next week of footy, they've got Para and then they've got Penrith. Para and then Penrith. And you've got, Raiders, who although they lost to the Broncos, I think they've been outstanding the last month. I personally think the Raiders have officially turned a corner. And when I say turned a corner, I don't mean they're back at the same level they were a couple of years ago. I mean, they nearly were on the direction towards the spoon. They went, at the start of the year, they went 2 from 8. In the last month of footy, they've gone 4 wins, 2 losses. So 4 from 6. If that's a massive, massive turnaround. So, yeah, I think the Roosters can. Now, to the Storm. Storm, look, where they add their absolute damaging best, I think every single week that goes by is every single week we realise, actually, Pappenhausen is incredibly important to this team. Meany's been playing outstanding, but the electric nature of the way Pappenhausen plays around the ruck, it cannot be replicated. It really can't, because no one has the body shape he has. He's so quick across the ground. He's so fit. His repeat speed efforts. He's always in the right position. So I thought it was a really good, solid win by Storm. And also congratulations to Grant Anderson scoring 2 tries on debut. And guess who picked it? You put out a bit of mail. The Guru said before the game, he said, anytime try scorer Grant Anderson, get on her. And boom, she got up. But what did you think about the Storm, Guru?
Yeah, mate, I thought they did really well. I remember looking before the game and, with all due respect to those guys, it's probably the worst back 5 I've seen in a Melbourne Storm team in a long time. Meany, Irene,
and that's that's compared to the greats.
To their greats, yeah.
But it's still it's still a good back line.
It's still handy, but it's very it's definitely not of the level of the Melbourne Storm over the last 20 odd years. And they were playing the Roosters, who are a good side, who have Teddy, Tupu, Manu. That's a pretty star.
Well, you'd probably say on paper, the outside backs, so from centres, fullback, and wingers, you'd say Roosters had the better on paper for sure. By a substantial margin.
Yeah. I thought Marion Seve, he's a guy that, has sort of been in and out of first grade. I think we all had him in our team of the week. I thought he was sensational.
He was a barn buster. He was breaking tackles left, right, and centre. 3 line breaks. He's just got that real solid, similar-ish to an Olam kind of footy player. I do think defensively, him and Dean Eremaya get found out a little bit, but that's all about combinations. That'll come after a time. And the good thing about a guy like Seve and Eremaya is in attack. Look at this. This is their stats for attack. 160 metres for Eremaya, 8 tackle breaks. Seve, 173 metres, 9 tackle breaks. So you can work on defensive systems. You can sort all that out. Yes, it did cost them a couple of weeks ago where they were letting in a few tries due to their youthful outside backs. But I tell you what, if you've got 2 young outside backs that are on your fringes, breaking 8 and 9 tackles each, it's pretty scary.
I've been a little bit surprised, Melbourne. I mean, they signed Jack Howarth at the start of the year on that 5-year deal. I'm surprised, all things considered, we haven't seen him yet.
Yeah.
I thought we would have seen him over the last few weeks.
And, basically, you can put 2 and 2 together. Like, by them signing Howarth on what they did, they pretty much lost Kaufusi and Bromwich. Like, that was a call that they made, which is fair enough. You've got to look towards the future. So I agree with you. Very surprising that hasn't been brought in yet. But also, I guess, it shows you how much clubs are buying for the future. Are buying players just so no one else will buy them. And clearly the Storm have looked at Holworth and said, we can't afford to lose this guy because we see his potential. Because he's on a fair whack, like a fair whack. One of the, like for a young player that hasn't played first grade yet, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest contract ever signed at the Storm. Probably the biggest. Can you think of any other rookies the Storm have signed that haven't played first grade yet? They're on 400, 500K?
Over 5 years? It's crazy.
5 years. Timmy, anyone?
Yeah, well, no, but the Storm, in terms of talent ID and paying overs for these rookies and the risk that comes with it, they've been doing it for years, haven't they? With Pappenhausen's in there, right? Harry Grant's in there, who they've just come through, and you sit there and go, geez, these blokes have got to bide their time. But when it comes, it pays off for the club, it pays off for the player who waited, and they become the next stars of the game. So obviously Bellamy and the recruitment team there have identified Howarth as one of them blokes. So it's exciting for when he does get his run.
That's 100%. Like, that was my next point, is like, if this is the raps the Melbourne Storm have on this kid, imagine what he's going to do when he plays first grade.
And I mean, he went back and played Q Cup on the weekend. He didn't play back row, he played centre. 143 metres, 70 post contact.
I told you he's a centre. I told you. He's a centre.
We'll see next year. We'll see.
I even questioned the great Craig Bellamy. I said, Bellyache, he's a centre, mate. What do you know about footy? Jesus. I think he's a centre. But we will know next year, because obviously Kenny Bromwich and Kaufusi move on. Going to be really interesting. I really like him at centre. Like, I really like him. I do think that they've really missed Remus Smith in the centres. He's so good in defence for them. And I think he's been such a good buy for the club. Like, he's going to be a long-term centre, not going to break the bank. Really grateful to be there. And it just shows you, like, you can go from a struggling club to a club like the Storm, and he may play the next 5 or 8 years at the Storm. I mean, what a change of scenery. You can almost guarantee yourself, if you play at the Storm for 5 to 8 years, you guarantee yourself at least one premiership, pretty much. What did you think about the game, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned you see how much Melbourne are missing Ryan Pappenhausen there, even in a good win like the weekend, but also just Jerome Hughes, the importance of him to this side, particularly in a squad with a fair bit of depth across it. The halves, they probably don't quite have it at the moment. They have sort of a few options in Nick Arimas and Cooper Johns who can step up, but they really miss out. But even in a game like this, backing up a few days after Origin, where Munster had a monster night out on Wednesday night, Hughes just steps up and goes, all right, I'll be the man tonight. Yep. Cut the try assist, starred for them. Munster took a bit of a backseat just to allow him to do that. And we mentioned a few weeks ago, but the winning record of Melbourne with and without Munsters and Hughes and that, and how much more, statistically speaking, the Storm need Jerome Hughes, and it's just showing more and more. Like, they never lose games of footy when he's playing. Yeah,
that it's interesting, because like with that statistic, it's like there's so many other factors around that statistic. Like, is Munster playing with a couple of wingers out as well? But I agree with you that Hughes is really becoming a staple of that side. And I think that most of us last year probably would have said Munster is the only staple in that side, and everyone else outside of that is incredibly good. Like, I rate Hughes. I thought he was top 3 halfback in the comp last year. But are they a staple of the side? Probably not. I think that it is proven this year that Jerome Hughes is arguably, now again, we need to see him in the big games. Did he win? He's won one comp at 7?
One comp, yep.
So we need to see him in more big games. But at the moment, as it stands for this season, I would argue Hughes is as equal staple to the team as Munster is. And I would also argue Pappenhausen is as equal to all 3 of them. And what's really interesting about that is it's very similar to Slater, Cronk and Smith. Smith might be the main guy. Yeah, but also Cronk's the kicking guy. He gets him around the park. Yeah, but Billy Slater is the tip of the spear. And it's almost echoing, obviously they're very different people to them, but playing-wise, Really, really impressive stuff.
I know, like, it is what it is, and we're not going to say it, but I'd love to see Hughesy be able to play Origin every year.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
to see him tested on that big stage for a month, smack in the middle of the season. He's just the sort of guy that would dominate that
World
arena.
Cup, end of year, bring it on. We'll get
Yeah, I
set.
can't wait. How good in the off season we got
Yeah.
the World
Unreal.
Cup. It's awesome. Fuck yeah. That everything we just said was brought to you by Bloke Jumpers. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Grab a Bloke Jumper. And we also got trackies. Matching trackies. I'm wearing them right now. Comfiest things in the world. Also, grab a case of Bloke beer. So, Melbourne Storm. Right now, what would you give them for the year of footy?
Considering injuries and stuff that have probably gone against them, I'd probably be sitting them at like a 7 or 8. Probably
Yeah.
an 8.
Where would you sit them?
Yeah, I'd give them an 8 to an 8.5. There was them sort of 2 weeks there where they had key players out and they got, really stood up against the Cows and Panthers, but take them 2 out. I know they're the 2 big games. They've been pretty bloody faultless.
What is interesting, Harry Grant starting off the bench. Now, obviously, it's probably because of Origin, but I would hate for the poor bloke to play so good off the bench that Bellamy goes, you know what? You actually are really good off the bench. And he's like, fuck. Because he's incredible at starting in the 9 role. Yeah, look, great performance by Storm. Well done. Kafusi situation. What do you think about the whole situation? My personal opinion is you got to give the bloke the benefit of the doubt. You can look at it and say he meant to do this, meant to do that. You just can't. You don't know what's going on in his head. Now, some people say, "Oh, he's got form and rah rah," but again, just because you believe he's got form, whatever, it doesn't mean you know exactly what he's thinking. On top of all that, they've come out and fought the charge. So, what do you think about the situation?
Yeah, I understand where people are coming from with the form argument.
For sure.
Like, he has had situations like this
sure.
before. There's
No
no
denying
denying that. So that's where this one does become difficult. But I just think it all happens so quickly.
Yeah.
And, the wrestler is such a big part of every team's game, especially the Melbourne Storm's game, as it should be. I don't think he does this stuff purposely. I just think he's an aggressive defender. That's what makes him so great. But when someone says, oh, yeah, and shows you the examples, I can understand where people are coming from.
Yeah, for sure. That's like the form. If you want to argue that and say it's a reasonable thing, it's not. You're not crazy to be like, bro, look at this, this, and this. It happened, and it could suggest that he is overly aggressive. I personally think that it's just, regardless of what you do or don't think, when you start to get into things of like reading what's in people's minds, it becomes a bit wishy-washy of like, he meant to do this or he didn't mean to do that. Look, I like to give players the benefit of the doubt. But again, I'm more than open to be proven incorrect. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, as you said, when you start guessing what a player's thinking, whether they're doing these things deliberately, particularly when it comes down to the integrity of a player and the nature of a player, their character, I think it's a dangerous line to cross. So the 2 words you said there, I'm going to go with 4 words, benefit of the doubt. Benefit of the doubt. I'm happy to give that to him and say, you know what, there's a bit of form, but, I'm happy to let him off the hook on this one.
Yeah, and it happens so quick. We watch it in slow-mo over and over and over again. This happened in a split second, like in the heat of battle.
So they find him, was it 1,800?
So this is the interesting thing about it, and Joey brought up a great point. They fined him 1,800 and charged him. And so Joey's saying, well, if they're charging him, they're saying he's guilty. So that's an elbow to the head. Then he should be gonskis if that's the truth. Interesting though, and I agree with Joey in the sense that he's right. Like if you're saying he intentionally did it, which you don't know whether he did or he didn't, then you've just gone the middle ground. You've just like, oh, we'll go the middle ground. You've got to be, I guess, firm on it. I personally believe there's nowhere near enough evidence to say he absolutely. Because like so many things are going on. He's trying to find his front. He could be trying to shrug someone off so that he can get over the top of him to his front. There's so many different things that can happen. Now, Melbourne Storm have come out and said, no, we're challenging that. So Melbourne Storm is saying, we don't believe he did it at all intentionally. And I think that, like, look, if you wanted to start reading in people's minds, for them to turn around and go, they could have easily 1,800, nothing. Walk away, scot-free, all good. For them to go, no, we're challenging that. I think that leans more in Kafusi's favour of he clearly wants to stand up for his own integrity and say, no, I'm willing to risk it because I didn't do it on purpose. What do you think?
So with the charge, was he facing any weeks or any possible?
No weeks.
No weeks.
Just a fine.
Yeah, right.
And they've come out and said, no, we're challenging that, which says to me, I know we will never know because we don't know what he's thinking, but it kind of feels like, well, we clearly didn't mean it. Like, if you meant it, you'd be like, oh, thank God, I'm just going to take this and bounce. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Great from the club. What a stance. Say, all right, you're going to not attack our player's character, but you're saying, by the fact that he was fined, you're basically saying you meant to do it. They say, no, bullshit, he didn't. I think it's a great stance from the club.
Yep. And what do you reckon?
I just reckon, intentional or not, like it's still dangerous contact. Like he still elbowed him in the head. It looked like a couple of times. Like the first one wasn't too bad, but the second one.
But the second one was like, he didn't elbow him in the head the first contact. Like his elbows weren't up there.
Yeah.
Like his arms were down there, correct?
Yeah, but
so that's not his fault. Like if you go into a tackle and
but either way, like it's grade 1 dangerous contact. If it was intentional, he would have got grade 4.
Yeah, but so let's say a guy let's say the exact same tackle happens. Sam Walker gets up, they play the ball. You wouldn't even notice it because it wasn't like he egregiously had his elbows up. He was bumping like normal. So if you start getting to the area of saying like bumping like normal, if you hit someone's head, then you can get weeks. There'll be a million tackles a game. So do you feel he had his elbows up in a dangerous position before, not a normal position, a dangerous one?
When I saw it, because it's grade 1, right? So minuscule, and it's a fine as well.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that is the NRL saying you meant this. I think it's just them saying you got him in the head. It's a little bit dangerous. He's a grade 1.
But his elbows were here. If we started fining blokes for every time they hit someone in the head with elbows here, you have to change the way you run. Like you're almost saying don't bump anymore because you could hit someone in the head. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's a very dangerous road. You'd be changing. There'd be a lot of blokes running completely differently. But who knows? You've had more experience with the NRL, so maybe that is what they're saying. They're just saying, look, it was contact with the head and whatever. I think you've got to kind of look at it like with just that specifically, not the other stuff because we don't know what he's thinking. You've got to look at it like if Sam just gets up and walks like away, you would say that was a completely normal tackle. Whereas like, let's say he runs with his elbows right up and he misses Sam and Sam gets up and runs away. I would say that's a penalty still, even if he missed him, because he's dangerously lifted his arms and his intention was to hit. Whereas if it's normal, I'm kind of like, you can't really find someone for running normal and they accidentally hit. Like someone tries to tackle me here and their head gets hit. I think that'd be a bit tough. But yeah, look, I personally believe in these situations, you've got to give the player the benefit of the doubt. Do you reckon going toe-to-toe with the NRL is a dangerous thing? You reckon they'll get off it?
I always look at teams like Melbourne and the Roosters, and normally if they challenge something, they normally do get away with it. They normally only challenge and they know they're going to get away with it. I'll tell you what, I thought the funniest thing of the whole fucking thing was Buzz Rothfield tweeting out, "Can someone get me some footage of the thing?" I was like, "You work for Fox and the Telegraph. How are you reaching out to the average punter to see if they can get you a bit of tape? Do you have KO?"
Talk about like seeing blood in the water and being like, "Get me some footage of it. I want to tear this apart." Oh, bloody hell! The main thing though is I hope Sammy's all good. Bio reports he is all good. Mate, he's so tough. Look, he's got to be one of the toughest young little fellas I've seen in a long time. Like
pound for pound.
Pound for pound. Tell me a bloke that's as tough as Sam Walker. I've never seen him step. So many players, even big players, will sometimes step aside like that just to take the tackle, not to hurt their shoulders. I never see him pull out of anything. So by reports, he's all good. So I hope he's all good. And as I said, with these things, you just can't tell what they're thinking. But Storm, another great win. On to Broncos v. the Raiders. Wow. What an incredible win. I can't express, I know I wasn't a 300-game veteran or any of that stuff. I was a nobody when it comes to the Broncos. But how proud it made me to think these blokes were wearing the same jersey that I was lucky enough to wear. I thought they represented the Broncos as good as any Broncos squad has ever represented the Broncos. To have that many injuries, to have people out due to origin commitments, and to put on a performance like that against a Raiders side that was in good form, that had good players like Tarpanair, like Elliott for him, Starling came on and lifted the pace of the game. I thought it was an absolutely amazing performance, and I think that any era of Broncos would be incredibly proud of what the Broncos managed to do. This young Broncos side managed to do on the weekend. They're building something incredible there, and they should be. And I said it a few weeks ago. Remember all the people that death rode you a couple years ago? There's only one group of people that got you out of this and believed in you, and that's yourselves. So they should be proud of themselves. It was an amazing performance. What do you think of this one, Guru?
Yeah, mate, I thought the Raiders, I mean, if you got me to go 1 to 16 of the best performing teams on the weekend, I'd probably have the Raiders 5th or 6th. I thought they were really good. I thought they played well. And Broncos, to do what they did, very impressive. Especially the guys they lost. So they had Capewell and they had Staggs out before the game. That hurt. They had Carrigan backing up from Origin. Haas gets injured. Herbie gets injured. Reynolds gets injured. I mean, there's a lot going into that. You've also got Ezra playing 6th. Was that his first game with Adam Reynolds?
Second, I think.
Second?
Yes. Was it second? Or was it with Gamble?
I'm pretty sure it was his first.
Yeah, actually, I think it was his first. Yeah, and it looked like they've been partners for ages.
Yeah, I thought it was very impressive from Brisbane, and once again, I don't think Canberra played poorly. I thought they played really well, and this doesn't really dent the Raiders at all for me. I thought it was interesting. They spoke to Ricky Stewart after the game, and they sort of said, they were missing this guy, this guy was injured, and Ricky sort of said, mate, we've been in those positions. You find an extra gear, it does happen, sort of thing. And he gave credit to Kevin Walters, which I think is fair, that good teams do that when they've got a good culture.
Yeah,
and you can see what Kevy has built up there up at Brisbane this year.
Oh, mate, it's absolutely amazing. The turnaround of the club.
It was his first game with Adam.
First game?
Yeah.
It wasn't his flashy stuff that I thought was incredible. It was his subtle stuff. The Ezra Mam's ability to just hold the ball an extra second longer or get rid of it early. His ability to read the game is so far ahead of most young teenagers. It's incredible. And just his deft touch, every pass landed exactly where it needed to pass. Even the one, like, we got a rookie in his first game with NRL. It's essentially his second game starting the NRL. And people might say, oh, you're making a big deal of it and whatever. But, like, even little things of throwing the dummy, then taking the tackle and offloading on the line. Like, so many halves would have panicked and just thrown the ball straight away, and then the winger could have jammed in and stopped the whole play. To have the calmness and to slow the game down in your mind, but still play fast like that, Ezra Mam was incredible. And, like, there was probably at least 2 line breaks on his edge that was because of his ability to pass at exactly the right time. Exactly the right time.
When you look at, like, ball players in the NRL and how guys would match up next to each other, we quite often talk about the Raiders, that Jack White needs a certain sort of halfback next to him and whatnot. Reynolds and Mam, that combo.
Special.
It's close to perfect, really, isn't it?
Yeah, when it comes to styles of footy players.
It's exactly what you want in your halves.
Absolutely, absolutely. What did you think of this game, Timmy?
Sorry, mate, I tuned out about 5 minutes ago. Where are we at? Look, Brisbane, incredibly impressive. And for me, Brisbane have passed their first test in terms of turning into a dominant side again in the NRL, where we know they have been for a few years now, which has been reflected in the Queensland Origin team because there's less Broncos involved. There's less disruptions to them over the Origin period. Well, this was their first game where they've gone. They're missing key players. They've got key players backing up, playing big minutes again in Paddy Carrigan, who's just incredible. So, I'm really interested to see how the Broncos, with all this Origin impact over the next 5 weeks and how they go. They obviously play around 17 where they'll have half their side out. Back to the days where it'd get to the Origin period and Brisbane would be going, geez, this is going to be hard going because we're just decimated. But they're 1 from 1 through it, and, good luck to them.
I just want to show a quick list. So this is at Fox League. Make sure to go to at Fox League on Instagram and give them a follow and watch this video. Also Instagram. I want to just show you boys him mic'd up.
I got you, brother. Oi, tighten up, because Renault's right. Tighten up. Kotrick. Man down. Kotrick, bumpers. Sit him back.
All this talk is so important.
Widen. Oi, tell me that. Because I got pain inside the 4. I'll tip you. Let's move him around, bro.
So good.
Kicker! Ricky, kicker!
This isn't just...
Oi. Look how tight their 4s are. Oi, tight 4s. tight forwards, all right? If I tip you, their forwards are tight. Yeah. You can get on that overs, get a Fogarty.
Let's go, here we go.
This is your 13 talking.
Oi, just one play. Give me your ears. Oi, discipline. Oi, remember when I was saying look for 3 inside the ref? That's 3 plays. We're 2 wide at A at the moment, all right? Tighten up.
That's your 13 talking like a 7. That's your 13 talking like a 7. And just for the people that may not be aware of it, when he, like, little things like their fours are really tight, that's your 7 that's supposed to be saying stuff like that. So he is working with his forwards, getting his forwards to certain points on the field. When he says 3 near the ref and he says their markers are really wide, that's the marker, not the markers, sorry, the A defenders, they're the first defenders behind the markers. So if they're really wide, you tighten up your attack and you hit him behind the markers. That's your 13 talking like that. That's amazing. On top of, he's a massive workhorse and a massive ball runner and tackler. What do you think about that, Timmy?
Oh, I hadn't seen that. Forwards tight, start going overs. Like, that is unbelievable. Even just the in the moment, Kotric running up to him. Kotric bumpers. Like, that is so on the ball.
Yeah.
That content is brilliant. I'd love to see more of it.
Yeah, great stuff from Fox. Great. I mean, they do some really, really good stuff, Fox, especially some of their camera angles and that. But yeah, Carrigan, like his chat. Oi, boys, listen. Like, to be able to pull to say stuff like that, it's like natural leader to be able to like pull them back into the moment. And sometimes when in the field and you're in the heat of battle, so much shit's going on. Sometimes you need someone just to pull everyone in, focus on him and listen. Talking about discipline. And this is why a few years ago I said he'd be the captain of the Broncos. Like, that's a 13. That's a 13 talking like a lock.
And I could be mistaken, but I thought when I was rewatching the Origin the other day, there was a moment where they flashed the change rooms at halftime.
Yeah.
He was being heard.
He was talking in the group. We're talking about a 23-year-old, 22-year-old in his Origin debut. He's still only in his I think he's played about 60 games of NRL. He is really, really impressive. And again, it's usually when you watch a forward like that, you're hearing stuff like, come on, boys, and let's hit him, and which is, you need that. You absolutely need that in your pack. For him to be sitting there going, oi, markers are A defenders are wide, fours are really tight, which means we can get on the edges there, telling Haas to we'll move these boys around. Incredible stuff. He is so impressive, Paddy Carrigan, and I'm glad he's starting to get the raps that he deserves, because the last few years he's worked his backside off, his absolute backside off. We've got a special player in Paddy, and to be honest, his value is just going up and up and up.
I mean, I thought it was pretty evident in the audio, but just from you sitting next to him, could you tell how Smithy feels about him?
Paddy Carrigan?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, mate, I think that Carrigan and Cotter, Smithy and Slater and that, they just look at them like, yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're about. We're about those kind of players right there. And, you know, he delivered. To do what he did in Origin as a forward, like, when was the last forward that did that? Him and Cotter. Especially Paddy off the bench. I can't think of another. I can't think recently. I'm sure there's plenty of years back, but recently a debutant forward coming off the bench and just blowing the game apart the way Paddy Carrigan did. So very exciting. I think when Reynolds retires, I think Paddy Carrigan is absolutely ready now to be the captain of the Broncos. A couple of years ago, he was handed the captaincy because there was injuries, and I said, like, I didn't like it because he'd only played about 20 NRL games, and I just said it's too much pressure for him, as well as, like, when you're talking to the boys and you've only played 20 games yourself, very hard to demand that respect. But he has earned that respect over the last couple of years. And, mate, he's incredible. I think he'll definitely captain the Broncos, and he may captain Queensland and even Australia. Like, that's how impressive I find him as a bloke. We have to remember this guy helped steer the Broncos, the biggest sporting franchise in the country, or used to be, through the darkest times of the club's history, and he's been like the beating heart of that. Huge effort.
If we get to 2 years' time, and let's say Adam Reynolds is retired by that point, and he's the captain of the Broncos, and DCE's out of the Maroons, so could he be the next Maroons captain? Or
I can't see why not. If he's already, on his debut, got the Queensland Origin side around him in the changing room doing these ones at halftime, that's pretty amazing.
He'll be 26 by then. Like, it's not old, but it's not that young.
Not that young. No, I think personally right now he's ready to captain the Broncos, and then in a year or two, with a few more series under his belt, he'll be ready to captain Queensland. I thought Rabadi was outstanding. I thought it was probably his best game in first grade. 154 metres, a line break assist, 13 tackles, only one miss. What's crazy about this, Payne Haas went off at 24 minutes. Payne Haas went off at 28 minutes. Billy Walters, I thought he was really, really good. Seems to be finding a home there at the 9. Herbie Farnworth, wishing him the swiftest recoveries, tore his bicep. He's out for 3 to 4 months, which is devastating. He's having the year of his career, but the good thing is he signed a contract with the Broncos. He's going to be at the club, and I think, if Herbie continues this and he can stay at the club long term, he'll go down as one of the most beloved players we've had in a very long time. He's such a battler, gets into everything. I thought Corey Oates was outstanding. Flegler off the bench was amazing, nearly 200 metres. 28 tackles, 4 tackle breaks. I'm just super, super proud, and I'm super happy that those young boys and that whole staff get to experience what it should be like to wear that Broncos jersey. They're amazing, absolutely amazing.
What would you do with Herbie's jersey? Obviously, Branko Lee played centre the other night. You could move him to the left. The other one I was going to throw in there, does Tessie New come back as a centre potentially?
Yeah, I'd probably bring him in as a centre. I like Tomato Martin. I think he's been doing...
He has to stay, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Although he's still a bit rough around the edges. He's missed a few tackles and his running game isn't the best. He just adds so much silkiness to our ball playing and attack, and I just don't think it's worth taking him out there. Whereas Tessie New, I think he can offer the same as what he could offer at fullback at centre. So I think it's good timing for Tessie to be able to come in and just be that workhorse. Take the stress out of the game. Don't have to worry about it. Just take 20 carries a game. Really, really exciting. The boys should be super proud. It was an amazing performance. That's 7 in a row now. So incredible. Thank you, boys. Thanks for making me love footy. Jesus. Such a good week for a Queenslander and a Broncos fan. Now, on to the Raiders.
Yeah, we're fucking stoked for you.
Yeah, you sound fucking heaps stoked, you dogs. Jesus Christ. Get one win and fucking some morgue up in here. Barely talking. Funeral? We had a bloody funeral or what? Now, on to the Raiders. Look, I don't think there's many bad things to say for the Raiders. The Broncos dropped a few players injury-wise, but I think that Broncos have proven they are the real deal, and they're building more than just having a bunch of young good players. They're building good culture. I thought the Raiders were really good. Tarpon for me was the best player on the field. He was amazing.
He might be the best forward in rugby league at the moment.
The last month.
I think we said it a couple of weeks ago. I feel like there's been a real transition of that alpha forward from Papali'i to Tapine, which is not a negative on Josh at all. It's just that, Father Time remains undefeated. You have got to pass it on at some point. And I just think that Tapine is just, without, using that old saying, and he has gone to a brand new level, hasn't he?
243 metres, 23 runs. 23 runs as the front rower. 67 post contact, 4 tackle breaks, 33 tackles, only 1 miss. 6 offloads. 6 offloads.
He did it last week in the first 32.
He's a beast. He's a fucking beast. What did you reckon about the Raiders, mate?
Yeah, not too disappointed, but just old problems rearing their head again, and that's second half woes. No points in the second half, and that was with the Broncos having injuries during the game. I think it got down to, 14, 15 on the bench at one stage. The Raiders' origin impact, Papali'i only played, I think, 22 minutes or something, so not massive excuses there. Jackie White was the only other one. So I thought, with all that went on, that the Raiders, they just, as good as Brisbane were, the Raiders need to be closing these games out if they're serious about doing anything, and that was quite upsetting. Jackie White and Jamal Fogarty, their second game together in the halves. The Raiders are getting there, and they have turned a corner. They're looking all right, but if they're genuine about playing finals footy and making any impact come September, it's going to be off the back of them too, because they're not a side littered with stars, but Jack is that, and Jamal's proven that he's very good football as well, only a couple of games back from injury. So that'll be the key to them, and I'm excited to see their combination grow over the the back half of the season, but that'll determine if there are any chance of doing anything in the back end of the year.
There was some call for Jackie, some people saying that maybe moving to centres or another position. Do you think Jack is the long-term 6 at the club?
With the current roster, yes. Matty Frawley came in and did a really good job.
That's what I wonder.
Good winning record with him in the side the
last 6
to 8
weeks. Would you go Frawley and
weeks.
Fogarty in the 6th? Because I just felt in that second half they just lacked the structure to have that final punch. Create space outside. Do you think there is an argument to bring Frawley into the side with Fogarty?
It's hard because as I mentioned, there's not many stars in the Raiders side, particularly in the back line. We've got some strike forwards in Tapani, Papali'i, a few of these guys, Adam Elliott. But in the back line, I really don't think there's a lot of points, and I think that's showing. So if you move Jack to centre, you can really limit his output.
Yep.
I think you could put him to fullback. I think he's a tremendous fullback, but, he's really made that 5'8" role his own for a long time now. So it's a big move mid-season, and what it also does is he's such a good defender, Jack, so it takes that out of the defensive line. So, look, I wouldn't be doing it. Ricky brought Fogarty with the plan to go, all right, our halves are going to be a lot of our punch, a lot of our attacking flair. Let's see how they go. If it's not working in 4 or 5 weeks' time, maybe they can look at changing it up, but for now, I'd be seeing how they go.
So trying to create a combination with Fogarty and then give it a month of footy. If it hasn't improved,
and that's we talk about planning for the future as well. We know you need to win games right now, but that's what they're building around, them two in the halves going forward. So I think you've got to stick with that for the time being, at least. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting over the next month for the Raiders because, as I said, I really feel like they've turned a corner, and I would say out of all of that top 8 guys that are all jammed on the ladder, I reckon they're probably playing the best footy. When you look at the Roosters, Seals, Dragons, Raiders, I reckon it goes, when it comes to quality footy, it goes Raiders. I think Manly's actually been pretty good. Then probably Roosters, Rabbitohs, Dragons. You know what I mean? I think Raiders are leading the charge right now in that area. So this next month of footy, they play Newcastle next week and then St. George. So they're really winnable games for the Raiders. I thought Xavier Savage game was really interesting because I love that he kept trying. Like, I love that he battled on. He eventually ended up running for quite a few, like 250 metres or so. Just the odd error here and there that's really hurting him. He had 2 line breaks. He had 4 tackle breaks. Just needs to get that error out of his game because it seems to come at crucial times. I think it was at the start of the game on a kick return. Just dropped the ball unforced pretty much. Do you think when Chance is fresh and fit, ready to go, Savage keeps his spot at fullback?
It's a great question because they're just the completely opposite player, aren't they? And it'll probably come down to when Chance comes back, how the Raiders are going, and if they're struggling for points later on, but Savage is showing a bit of X factor, which he will because he's a very good footballer. He'll be a key cog in producing points. Whereas if the Raiders are looking all right, they're scoring points without the need for Savage, they can bring Chance back without those errors in his game. He's so reliable. They'll probably opt for him. So it'll all depend on...
Would you put him in the centres, Chance?
Possibly, but, I mean, you've got Tomoko in there who you're not getting rid of him. I don't know, mate. There's a lot of options. I prefer not. I prefer Chance at fullback.
Yep.
You can play him on the wing, but then you've got Kotrick and Jody Rapana, so they're your wingers.
Yep.
But, I mean, there's also the option to put Kotrick at centre if you need be.
Yep.
Look, it's good options to have.
Yeah.
I don't know which way Ricky will go.
Yeah.
Interesting to see.
What I love about Savage, though, is he keeps turning up. Didn't go into his shell. Didn't allow that. It was an early error that happened as well. He kept turning up. And also, like, at times you would have thought if they are going to break it open, Savage was the most likely. So I love that from Savage. And I think it's clear for everyone to see this kid is a talent, a real talent. Tomoko, I thought was great. He's so strong. Ball running, just a ball of muscle, seriously. Like, he's not the biggest frame, but every time in contact, he seems to win that contact. Hudson Young, man, he's a menace. He's just he really does remind me now of Bateman. They're a bit similar in size and everything, but just their constant in your face, trying to win, trying to get the leg up. So look, yeah, I agree. Bit of old problems rearing their head in the second half, but I still think over the entire 80, the Raiders are a much better side than they were earlier this year. Like, I really don't think it was that bad of a performance.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, on to the next game. We've got the Seagulls versus the Tigers. What did we think of this game, gentlemen?
It was good to see Kohler in some space finally. Wasn't
Far
it?
out. How good.
Out. That was crazy. Yeah, I think it was pretty evident the Tigers, they look like a reasonably unhappy camp to me at the moment. Obviously, the drama, they sacked Madge last week after a bye, which was bizarre. Weird timing to do that. I thought there was a couple of guys there for the Tigers that came up with defensive efforts that I don't think you would have seen over the last few weeks. Say what you will about Madge, I think he was getting something out of them. I mean, you have a look at the ladder, I think they're fourth last. They lost their first 5 games in a row.
Yep.
For them not to be last at this point is a damn good effort. I don't know. I feel like this Tiger situation, it's another one that's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
Yeah, the Madge sacking in the middle of the year, it is bizarre to me. Absolutely bizarre. If it's going to happen, do it at the end of the year. Who's out there that's going to make it better?
It feels like they made this decision 4 weeks ago and they were almost shitty that he kind of turned it around.
It's bizarre. Do you think they were sitting there going, we need to sack him now just in case he does turn it around? But then you're like, well, why'd you stick with him for so long?
Yeah.
The sacking of Madge at the moment makes no sense to me. If you're going to do it at the start or end of the year. There's no one on the market right now. What I'm not understanding with the Tigers' decision is that what was pressing the issue? Was there a coach on the market that you needed to get? So, I don't know what was pressing the issue that forced Madge out now. And I agree with you. I think you could see, in a perfect world, players don't care who they play for and they go out and they play the best of their ability. But unfortunately, we're human beings. And when you lose a coach that they've all come to love, it's going to affect them.
Mate, they had an internal review at the end of last season. You remember they had to delay it for 2 days because they had to look at it for longer. And then at the end of the few days, they came out and said, the guy we signed long term, we've decided he's still our guy.
It's bizarre.
They come out, they go like a busted, they have injuries, they then start to play good. And I personally think they've got pretty unlucky over the last 5 or 6 weeks at different points. They finally signed some good footballers and then they decide, oh no, now he's not our guy.
Mate, super, super weird. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, the Tigers, funny one. They're starting to get a few players back from injury, yet throughout one of their worst performances of the season. When they did have injuries there and there was pressure on Madge and he was sort of getting them up and getting them in contests. So, I mean, it is what it is now. Nothing's changing, but hard to find too many positives for them coming out of that performance. And Manly on the flip side, yeah, they got the job done, but at the same time, they realistically didn't beat much. It's hard to sort of praise them too much for that performance. But again, they conceded, 1 try and put 30 on the board, so can't knock a result like that score-wise.
I think as you said as well, I mean, who's going to come in and do a better job, mate? Who's going to go there?
Yeah, it's such a... you got no assurances that, things aren't going to get leaked, and if someone's offside, they don't like you, you're going to find yourself in the paper, and, mate, it's a very strange situation. Look, unfortunately, I think that the Tigers season, where we saw so much hope, I kind of see a dash now. I don't know. I don't think they're... I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, where it was one off week and then they turn around and they rally again. But I think that this may be... it may get worse towards the end of the year.
Had this broken when we were here last week or not? Did it happen on the Tuesday?
Oh, man, I can't remember.
Tuesday, right, okay.
Yeah.
It's so interesting as well. Obviously, Madge has got this link to Appy. They played, he gave him the 2014 jersey in the grand final. He's got a link to Papa Lee because he's the coach in the New Zealand side. He's obviously, got guys like Leilua, like Jacko that have stood by his side this entire time and backed him. I mean, you've got Dewey, Jacko, and Luke Brooks. They're off, they can negotiate with other clubs November 1st.
Yeah.
The one guy that has stood in all 3 of those corners the entire time, they've just shooed him out the door.
Yeah, it's a strange one. Hopefully they can turn it around, because that would be so disappointing, because they finally looked like they fought their way out of such a dark time, and then unfortunately that happens. Now, Manly. Manly, I thought they did what they were supposed to do, and I also think that what really impresses me about Manly is they obviously lost Tom Trbojevic, and they haven't fallen apart. I like Garrick at the back. I think Garrick's been outstanding at the back. I think that he's going to be a long-term player at that club. He's so crucial, and he just puts up points. He hits, I think he's at 126 points for the season now. You need point scorers. Are they, Brian To'o or whatever? No, but he's just putting points up on the board constantly, just getting their team up by 6s rather than 4s. He gets through a mountain of work. He's constantly dangerous. I think Garrick has been outstanding for Manly in that role. It's big shoes to fill. Outside of that, Alloy was also outstanding.
Sorry, just on Ruben Garrick before we move off him. If he was on the open market, what would you pay him as a fullback? Where do you sort of put him? What range do you put him in?
I want to see a little bit more, but maybe 300 or 400k. 300 or 400k.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. I thought you'd have him a bit higher than that. Okay. Nah,
no way. Fuck. Because you got to, Because because 300 or 400K, like that's a fair whack of your salary cap for a guy that isn't a rep player, you know, is a good solid fullback. But when you're trying to balance out, because what will happen is if you don't have a superstar, it's like Dylan Edwards at the back. He's probably on 300 or 400K. And that's because of the balance of his side. All the money is invested into
fair enough.
To Cleary, to Luai. And so a guy like Garrick, I'd be looking about 300 or 400K, and then I'd be investing massively in obviously my 9, 6, and 7.
If you could sign him as the Raiders fullback, what would you pay him?
I'd not comparing to Penrith because they're such different rosters, but I'd be happy to bump that up closer to sort of 5 because, I mean, not only has he proven that he can deputise at fullback really well, but he's a gun winger. He's massive for yardage, which I just, every time I watch a game of footy, that becomes more important. And on top of it, he's a really good goal kicker. So he ticks a lot of different boxes. He's a very versatile player. I'd be happy to give him 500.
Is fullback his better position? Do you reckon?
No, I like him as a winger.
Yeah.
I like him as a winger. He's really good at fullback, gets through a bunch of work, but I think he's a great finishing winger, a really good, solid finishing winger. I really rate him. I really do, and I think that he's underappreciated. But Manly fans, I'm sure, absolutely love him. I thought Josh Aloiai was outstanding, really good through the middle. He was the key to their go forward. Look, good solid win. Kieran Foran leading the boys around again. Ola Kawatu, holy shit. Another week of just dominating through the edge there. He is so dangerous on that edge. And some, like I saw some people say that he's not consistent. I feel like he's been pretty consistent this year. Like I feel like every single, most games, he's been probably their most dangerous forward this year. So Ola Kawatu, now I'm not sure whether he played for Tonga or New South Wales, but if he is making himself available to New South Wales, I think he'd do a job in Origin. Now, is he going to get the job?
I think he said Tonga.
So he's said Tonga? Can you check that, please, Matt?
He has, yeah.
He has said Tonga?
Yep.
Okay, well, Tonga, mate, him on the edge for Tonga, it's going to be unstoppable. Seriously. Such a good talent. Great story too. Got asked to come down to training with Nasi Fainu. Manasi Fainu basically was a basketball player, and he's only been playing league for not many years. And you can see that. Like each week, he's just getting better and better, more well-rounded, understanding the game better. It's super impressive. Outside of that, though, just a really good solid win. I thought Tui Pelotu was outstanding again. Cooler, obviously, was scoring his try. Look, good win. There's not really much else to say. Was there anything else to start to you, boys?
I thought Jake Trbojevic was really good in that game. I thought that was probably his best game he's played in a while. Put Aloiai over for the first try, I think it was, with a little bit of ball playing there.
Yeah. And then after the game, if we needed any more confirmation of Jake Trbojevic being the best dude in the NRL, they're asking about his Origin recall credentials and sort of saying, what do you reckon, mate? And he sits there and raps all these other candidates who can get a go.
Oh, mate.
And then,
Here's the goat.
And then on top of that one, Manly number 9 watch, James Seguiaro hat-trick in 8 minutes in New South Wales Cup.
No way.
70th, 76th, 78th minute got a hat-trick. They got done. Might have taken the foot off the pedal, the Maggies, but, you know, lurking around.
So is Seguiaro signed with Manly or still just with reserve grade?
I think he put up a thing the other day saying he'd signed a train and trial.
But I haven't seen that announced anywhere.
Yep.
And we would see that announced anywhere. Can you please check for us, Matt? I don't think he's signed there yet officially.
On the official NRL website, he's not on their list.
Yeah, but
I'll keep digging, but yeah.
Have you Googled like Seguiaro signs for Manly or whatever? I don't know if it's official because I feel like we would hear that. And I also feel like you'd be maybe chucking him on the bench at 14, seeing how he goes.
Well, he played 80 as well on the weekend, so the fitness is there.
Well, he's also been playing quite a bit of halfback down there.
Oh, really?
Too. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Seggy watch.
Yeah, Seggy watch. Just got a cam on him in reserve grade, just following him around. Dylan Walker again off the bench, great impact. But yeah, look, I thought it was a good, solid performance. Yes, the Tigers didn't play the best, but they still put 30 on them. Like, this is a team without their main guy. People said they can't play any footy without their main guy. I think they're improving, and Desi seems to just be getting the best out of him. So great win for Manly. Now, on to Newcastle, Penrith. Really, really concerned for Newcastle. Really, really concerned. And it's the same situation with the Titans as it is with Newcastle. I'll use the Broncos as an example. When they were struggling, you could see the forward pack. You could be like, I can see the future. My concern with the Newey Knights is I can't see what direction they're going in at the moment. I can't see a young batch of, newie boys that are really talented. They're just a bit rough around the edges. I'm really unsure what direction they're going to take going forward, and that's what's concerning, is that they've done so much work. They'd worked, Adam O'Brien had come in, and Nathan Brown lifts them off the bottom of the table. Adam O'Brien comes in, brings them into the finals footy, and now we get to halfway through the year, or just over halfway, and unfortunately they're essentially a bottom four side, really. Like, they're currently sitting 12th right now on the ladder. So, they're not a bottom four side, but I can't see. I don't know where are they going. Where's the light at the end of the tunnel for them? What do you reckon about the Knights, Guru?
They're an awkward team because I agree with you. You can't really see where they're going, but then you look at their squad right now and you go, fuck, it's not a train wreck.
No, it's a good solid squad.
Side.
Should be in the
you
top
look
8.
Through it, the halves are decent. Like, they obviously need to try and keep a hold of Milf. They've got a star at fullback. They've got Gagai in the centres. Brad Best is injured at the moment. They've got him too. The forward pack is stacked. Yep. I mean, there's guys that are getting picked in origin sides that are coming off the bench for them. There's no reason why they should be struggling the way they are. And, I don't know how far you look into, a game against Penrith. Obviously, they're the benchmark and whatnot. But, man, even if it wasn't against Penrith, regardless of who it was, it wouldn't surprise you if the Knights put in this sort of performance.
Yeah, mate, it's just not looking good. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, they're hard to make sense of for all the reasons Guru just said. And you look at, like, they're going poorly regardless, but they lose Kalen Ponga to a HIA after 15 minutes. Like, if Kalen Ponga was to miss a lengthy stint of time due to injury or whatever it might be, like, where do Newcastle's points come from in this side? If he's out, they have a spine of Chris Randall, Anthony Milford, Jake Clifford, and probably Tex Hoy, which is what we're going to see thrown out this weekend, I'd say, if Ponga doesn't back up.
Yep.
That's when there's huge concerns. They can't score with him. What happens without him?
Very, very... look, I think Brayley coming back is going to be a huge in. Now, I understand he's still a few weeks away. They've really missed Brayley because he was like the heart and soul of their side, but I do think pressure is mounting at the Newey Knights. Like, look at this forward pack. Clemmer, Saifidi, Frizzell, Fitzgibbon, Barnett. That's their starting forward pack. So... I understand Adam O'Brien's in a tough position because he was handed a team that had essentially their junior system was non-existent. They're trying to build that up again. And I know in the post-press conference he mentioned that. He said, look, we've got all our systems are, this is a decade-long project. The unfortunate thing is, even with this squad, they still should be going better. That's what I'm not understanding. If their forward pack was, 21, 22 years old, 10 games into their career, I could understand this kind of... But at the moment, they've got a super experienced forward pack, some really good outside backs, and yet they're still really struggling to put it together. What do you got there, Matty?
Just circling back to Seguiaro. So he's, according to everything that I read, he signed with the reserve grade team last year, but then in early May, he signed like a training trial with the Seagulls and has been available for first grade selection since round 11.
So is he training with the Sea? I haven't seen any images of him training. So
according to this, and there wasn't much on it, but the 2 articles I read, he's training on a week-to-week basis with the Seagulls.
Interesting. I haven't seen any images.
But those articles were from a few weeks ago. There's been nothing more recent.
It's like I feel like we would have seen some images of him at training.
He put up something. I read something on his Instagram story the other day about signing something with the Seagulls. I'm not sure, like, someone had asked him, are you going to be playing soon? And he was sort of like, I signed something today, funnily enough, or something. So, I don't know. There's a bit of mystery around it, but...
What do the Knights have to do to improve?
Well, I was actually just thinking, like, obviously they lost Mitchell Pearce at the end of last season. Like, it sort of happened awkwardly with timing and whatnot, but geez, if they would have known they were going to be without Pearce this year and they could have gone in the market for a Chad Townsend or an Adam Reynolds, fuck, how different could it have been?
Oh, way different. Way different. And I think, like, Townsend would seriously consider... going to Newey over North Queensland, because North Queensland at the time were like 14th or whatever. Do you think the right play is to get Hastings to the club? Do you think, if it is true that they are chasing Hastings, is that the right call?
I think so, but I think there'll be a few other teams with the same idea, realistically.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, the whole roster stacks up beautifully. You mentioned the pack then. That's with Kurt Mann off the bench and no Daniel Saifiti. It's stacked. So
great pack.
If I'm managing that roster, I'm trying to shed a bit of cash in the pack because they're all pretty decent money forwards, whether that be a Clemmer or a Dan Saifiti, whatever. There's enough there. Mitch Barnett's going, but Adam Elliott's coming in. they just need a halfback, and whether or not there's money in that cap or whether they have to find it, I'd find a way to get a halfback because a Jackson Hastings in that team, they become a top 8 threat. Like I think that changes everything for them.
How much are you paying?
For
Hastings.
we spoke about this about a month ago, didn't we? 750.
Ooh, what about Hastings? What a turnaround. Gets shafted out to Super League. Now you could argue he's one of the hottest property sevens on the block.
Well, he will, mate. He's come back at the perfect time, just as Townsend and Reynolds show that they are worth blank check sort of money.
Yeah.
Now he all of a sudden becomes the hottest guy on the market to be able to get your hands on, and he's shown what he can do to a shithouse side, that he can turn them into a side that can compete.
Mate, if I'm the Knights, this is what I would be doing. I would be moving heaven and earth for Milford and Hastings. Because if you put Milford and Hastings in this side, it really changes to something special. I feel bad for Clune and Clifford. I really do, because they started the year so well. And, Clune has had so many injuries coming in and out of first grade. So it hasn't been ideal for either. Clifford has their own personal issues going on. It has not been ideal for them. And they've worked their butt off. It just hasn't worked out. But unfortunately, it's a cutthroat business. And if a guy like Hastings is on the market and Milford's on the market, you're gonna go for him.
It'll be interesting. Hastings, Milford could be the halves for Newcastle or the Dolphins next year, and I wouldn't be surprised either way.
I don't know if Hastings will go to the Dolphins. I don't know if... I reckon he'll...
Pretty good relationship with... You got to remember that Wayne convinced him to play for England.
Yeah.
Only 18 months ago. So
it'd be a year late though, wouldn't it? He'd be a year late because he's got another year in the Tigers deal, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Has he got a Madge? I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have a Madge clause in his contract.
Really? I would have been sure that he would, so desperate to get back, he wouldn't have had the power in negotiations to put that in his contract.
Maybe.
Because think of it, he was offering his service to the entire NRL, and it's just the Tigers that went after him. I don't know if he would have had the negotiation power to be able to say, I'm only on Madge. But yeah, unfortunately, the Newey Knights, they're still in search of a 6 and a 7. Look, I think Jake Clifford has the talent to do it. I really do. Just a confidence thing with him. Just needs to find some confidence, and then he can get back to that incredible form that he started the year with. He was amazing at the start of the year. So hopefully the boys can bounce back. Footy's better when Newey is playing well. Penrith Panthers, it's probably going to be our shortest segment because really what is there to talk about? These guys are amazing. Kickout was outstanding. Cleary was incredible. Timmy, what do you think about the Penny Panthers?
Yeah, look, wrapping them is just boring. I'm over it. So I'm going to be glass half empty and try and find a critique of them. And that is one, Ivan Cleary has this fascination with backing up his Origin players.
Yeah.
And I don't get it because I don't think they need to do it. So they've had, Nate's backed up and played 80 minutes. Luai's backed up. Nearly the whole contingent did except for Isaiah Yeo. Liam Martin backed up and played something like 55 minutes.
Yep.
In such a long NRL season and how taxing it is, when Penrith are 4 points clear and haven't looked like losing games outside of Parramatta, I just don't see why he needs to put more stress on these blokes week in, week out when they've got ready-made replacements who have shown that they can do it. They did it a week ago and won with all these players out. So I just think for the longevity of them and across the season, I'd just be giving them spells this time of year, and they've got the luxury of being able to do that. I don't get it, and Cleary's done it for a number of years now. I remember a year, I think it was 2 years ago, he played Cleary and Luai and a bunch of these guys in the final round of the season when they had the minor premiership wrapped up, and every other gun club, the Bunnies, Melbourne, were resting players, and he just played them all. It's like, I mean, I can't knock results.
Yeah, it worked.
Of course, but it just seems like I'd be giving, particularly Liam Martin, who went 80 for the Blues, a spell.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that for sure. I personally, I'm of the mind of resting if you can. Such a brutal season. But how can we question? They're going so well.
I'd love to know how much of a say the players have on that too.
Yeah, because maybe they want to play.
I reckon I think the other thing is that I agree with you. I'd be resting too, but I think it's normally when you have a heap of Origin players coming back, they're 28 to 30 age. These guys are all 24, 25. I think that probably plays a bit of a role in it.
Yeah.
They'd all want to play.
Imagine
telling Nathan Cleary after Origin stinker, sit this one out, mate. Not a chance.
Cleary kicking for 745 metres, incredible. Crichton, I thought in attack, at the very least, he was really good. A try assist, 187 metres, 61 post contact. a line break and a line break assist and 2 offloads. Really, really good game for a bounce back for Crichton, in attack anyway. Yeah, look, as we've said, like there's really not much to say about the Panthers. They're unbelievable. They are the cream of the crop. They're the top of the NRL table, you know, when it comes to form, when it comes to actual points. If they aren't in the grand final, I will be shocked. If they don't make a grand final, it is a massive disappointing year for them. That's how good these guys are. And they're all still growing. They're all still coming together. It's crazy.
I think as far as they're concerned, if they don't win a comp this year, they'll be disappointed.
Yeah, incredible. So, look, as I said, Scott Sorensen, once again, off the bench. I thought he brought a lot of impact. Mitch Kenny also had some really good moments. Spencer Lenu, 41 minutes, 121 metres. Just a really good footy side. James Fisher-Harris, once again, 171 metres. It's probably the most well-rounded footy side in the comp. It really is. Like when it comes to just, they've got everything covered. Everything is covered. Incredible.
It's one of the most well-rounded sides in a long time.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Absolutely. Now, on to the Warriors v. the Sharkies. Great win by the Sharks. But I will say, I think that they're probably not going to kick on the way we thought they were going to kick on. I think they've been a bit patchy over this last month. When they were going through their good patch, I just thought they had a bit more resolve in defence. I think at the moment they're still trying to work their defensive systems out. You know, for the Warriors to come out and score 2 really quick tries, you know, as the top tier teams, you can't really allow that. So although the Sharks' improvement has been massive, and I think that next year they'll be absolutely challenging top 4, like absolutely. I do think that they probably aren't going to challenge this year for a premiership. But I hope I'm wrong. I would love for the Sharkies to push. I mean, look, to be fair, anything can happen. Anything can happen. They could beat any team. But I just think they've been a bit patchy over the last month. And I hope that, who knows, they could be preparing for a late run and they go on and do that run, which would be great. But I've just been a bit up and down. What do you think about the Sharkies?
I agree with you, mate, but they're a team I don't want to play come finals time.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to be a real handball. I agree. I don't think they can win a comp this year. But yeah, it's crazy how quickly they improve to all of a sudden now it's just, I don't know, it's like they've just come crashing back down to reality a little bit. And not in a shocking way. Like it's just, this is probably where they should be at compared to where they were at the start of the year, which was just unheard of to be able to be doing what they were doing. I still think they'll be highest, probably 4th, 5th, 6th.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
where they'll sort of finish. I think they'll play 2 finals games this year.
Yeah.
I think experience will be really good for them. And yeah, I mean, like they've obviously got Hines, who's in Origin camp at the moment, so he was missing. They'll have rep round. They'll have a number of boys that'll go and play for different teams there, and then it's just going to be 8 weeks to get themselves ready.
Yeah. Man, looking at this back line, it is so potent and underrated compared to other back, like Mulatalo, Talakai, Ramian, Katoa and Kennedy. That's a damaging back line. And then you got Hines and 7.
The next guys up are Connor Tracy and Nick Cavalu. If both those guys come in and they're your best backs that week, you're not surprised at all.
Yeah, they're really, really building something special. Like I really think the Sharks, like even as a club financially, for more reports, they're doing really well. They've purchased, I think, like the grounds around the thing with a hotel and that. I think that they're setting themselves up to really kick on. And if they were the next team to really become a powerhouse, it wouldn't surprise me at all. What do you think of the Sharkies, Timmy?
Yeah, I think the one that stood out for me was how much they've missed Will Kennedy.
Yeah.
He comes in there and in the weeks that he was out, they put in some pretty ordinary performances. Comes straight back in, they put on 38 points. He's just class.
Yeah.
Like the finishing touch, we talk often about these fullbacks and when they get the 3-on-2s and just making the right decision and getting off right more often than not. And Will Kennedy just gets it right just about every single time.
Yeah.
He's the polish on that back line that, he really stood out for me on the weekend. And the longer they can keep, like any team obviously, but the 1, 6, 7 together, continuing to build this combination, the more threatening they're going to get.
And you look at it like Brayley, Hines, it's like the perfect mix of age and youth. Brayley, a youth. Hines, still relatively young. Moylan, experienced. Kennedy, mid, I think he's like 23, 24. Like this spine can be together for at least another 3 to 4 years, at least 3 years. as I said, I think that they're not going to be able to pull it together enough towards the end of the year to go on a run to beat Broncos, Cowboys, Panthers, Storm. Like, that would be super hard. But I would honestly give their season an A. Like, I am so impressed with what they've built there, with how far they still have to go. Like, it's not like we're reaching their potential either. A lot of their forwards are young as well. They haven't had Dale Finucane last few weeks. Mate, super, super impressive. And yes, they had those 2 early tries scored on them, but outside of that, they were quite dominant throughout the game. So, look, great signs. Talakai, 218 metres, 4 tackle breaks, 89 post contact, 10 tackles, 0 misses. What a knock.
How's the footwork he put on for his try?
Crazy.
With his frame.
Oh, mate.
Like, imagine defending that bloke when not only can he just run over the top of you and you're 1,000,000 to tackle him, but when he can put on that sharp footwork and beat you with that.
Yeah. And he has good ball playing too.
Oh.
Good silky hands. Great tip on. So, Craig Fitzgibbon deserves massive raps. Katoa and Mulatalo, I honestly, they could challenge any wing combo in the competition. That's how good they are.
It's hard to work out which one of them is more underrated.
Yeah.
Like, just neither of them get spoken about ever. Like, it's obviously Mulatalo, he got some attention last year with the Origin and all that, but Katoa, mate, no one talks about him.
I know, and he's young. He's so good footwork, strong as anything.
Such a good finisher. Like, those two can do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so look, really exciting times for the Sharkies. Yes, it's been a bit patchy, but you know what? They're still winning games by big margins, still being able to put on a bunch of points. And this is the first year of really their spine working together, and they're doing it really well. So exciting times, Sharkies. Warriors. Look, I thought they showed a lot of fight, if I'm being honest. Everything that's going on, yeah, okay, it wasn't, it sucks as a Warriors fan that you get beaten by a substantial margin. I thought they showed a lot of fight. I think they're probably lacking a bit in the outside backs when it comes to depth. But with everything they've got going on, they've got, they lost Matt Lodge, Fanua Blake didn't play. They've got Tavanga at 10.
Murdoch Masila got injured in this one.
Yeah, he got injured quite early. It's going to be a tough year, I think, for Warriors. They've just dealt with so much over the last few years. I just think it's going to be really hard for them to find the energy to go 80 minutes.
Play Penrith this week.
Oh, mate. Poor blokes.
Yeah. If they play Penrith this week, then they'll have rep round, which, I mean, they'll probably put up a lot more players than anyone else will, realistically. Yep. So then they go the Tigers and they go into a bye. So, yeah, the Warriors only play 2 games in the next month, and then they can start. So, well, that Tigers game, round 16, so after rep round, that's meant to be at Mount Smart. So if they can just get through this Panthers game, put that one away.
Yeah.
And then you can have rep rounds, then you can go back to New Zealand into a bye.
What do you think?
I'd just fall for that Panthers game and say, you know what, let's just get the bodies right and build for the Tigers the week after.
Mate, tough gig.
The Warriors, they started so well on the weekend. They went up 2 tries early.
Full of energy.
Looked excellent. Reece Walsh was in everything as he in a tough season, Reece Walsh is very impressive still. And
I like his fight.
Yeah.
Got a lot of fight in him.
And they went up 2 tries early. We're going, here we go. Come on, Warriors. Everyone wants to see him get a win up.
Yeah.
And they conceded a try off a Sharkies kick. Fine, not a lot they could do about it. Then they kicked out on the full, invited them down there. They scored again 2 tries apiece, and you're just like...
And the thing is that their completion is good, but it's like these key moments, like just after points or, in these key moments, they just seem to make the wrong decision. They actually had a better completion rate than the Sharkies. But I can't really hold them, I can't hold that much against them because they've been dealing with so much, losing their coach. The good thing is they came out firing. So clearly they react to Stacey. Clearly there's an emotional connection there. They're willing to play for him. But yeah, it's going to... tough year.
It's, there's also obviously a lot of things that are out of the Warriors' control, unfortunately, but there's still a lot of things that are in their control that, I don't know if I've ever seen a team kick out on the full
as many times as they do.
More than the Warriors.
I know. It's tough.
It's unbelievable. They have 1 or 2 every single week. I think it was the weekend before that, they managed to kick out on the full on the dead ball line and both sidelines in the first half.
And the thing that's interesting is, I'd get it if, 1 week a bloke kicked out on the full. Everyone does that, everyone, it happens all the time, but I feel like it's a bunch of different dudes. They get really unlucky. It's 3 different blokes kick it out in the field full once each, and it's, mate, I feel sorry for them, honestly. Tough gig. Now, onto the game that shocked everyone. The Bulldogs defeat the Eels 34-4. Some may say this is hyperbolic. Maybe it is. I honestly think that performance from the Bulldogs was the performance of a top 8 side. Now, that's not to say that they will make the top 8 or anything, but I think the quality of rugby league they played. Yes, the Eels didn't play the best they've ever played. There's no denying that. But I think the Bulldogs played high quality football, and we're starting to see the connection between Flanagan and Burton, but also Burton and Addo-Carr, their connection, the tries that they're putting on, it's amazing. What an incredible win by the Doggies, and it just gives them so much hope. What's also crazy is I think in the last 2 weeks, they've scored more than what they scored in the first 10 rounds. So I don't know what Potter has done, but clearly something has opened up for them. Averillo, I thought he was outstanding at fullback. I think fullback is absolute his position. I also think that you keep him there, you keep Burton and Flanagan together, and you get Reid Marnie in, and you just keep that spine. I think there's the game on the weekend for me personally, I know it's only one game, but it showed me of where that club can be in a very short period of time. I don't think top 8 footy is as far away as we thought it was a few weeks ago. What do you think, Guru?
Yeah, once you get Reid Marnie in there next year, kick out these sort of guys, they really could do anything. They showed us yesterday what their ceiling is. If that is their ceiling, with more players going in there, it could be better. I think that combination between Burton and Addo-Carr,
Crazy.
it is insane.
Yep.
It
Nails
is
it. He
crazy.
nails it. Burton nails that kick every time.
Every time, like that first try that Fox scored where he chipped over, like Fox did not change his pace
Crazy.
at all on that
Yep.
run. It was honestly the perfect kick, and just his kicking game in general, like those kicks that he's like. I thought the Parramatta boys did really well to handle those. They're like 65, 70 metre spiral bombs. I don't even know what to call them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know if he's kicking for distance or to try and force an error.
Yeah. Incredible. Honestly, amazing. Amazing. Timmy, what do you think?
Yeah, it was a bad game to be a same game multi because it just, Jesus Christ, not even close. There was a few things for it. One was that, it's hard to sugarcoat it, but Parramatta came out complacent in this game and expected things to happen and points to come on the board, and I saw that attitude the whole game. But on the flip side, the Dogs were the complete opposite, and while you could use that excuse for Parramatta and say they didn't get their heads in the game, the Dogs didn't give them a chance to get their heads in the game. They were so physical in defence. They were just whacking them away. Their line speed was incredible. It was so good to see from the Doggies. And there was a 2-minute period very late in the game that summed it all up for me. And it was when Mitchy Moses went through and had that ball knocked on from the line. He had, I think it was Burton flying behind him and knocked it out of his hand. So that contrasted both sides. But then the following set, the Dogs stormed upfield. They had the game wrapped up. I think it was Docker Clay might have gone through, found Burton. Burton kicked. Yeah. And then there was just a queue of Bulldogs players racking up to score that try. And they were all just pushing forward on the ball. And it just summed up the whole game for me really well. And for the Doggies, I'm so stoked for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Vaughan, I know the Doggies said that they're probably not going to re-sign him, but I would reconsider that. Depending how much Paul Vaughan's asking, I think he's been solid. I thought he was great, really, really good the other night. I like Tavita Pangai Jr. in the front row. If he's on your team being super aggressive, it gets the boys up. And, he ran for 172 metres, 63 post-contact. He brought a lot of energy. Max King, I thought he was outstanding as well, 172 metres. There's a lot to like. Kiraz, we spoke about him, but 230 metres. I think they're building something there. I think Potter seems to have a bit about him. I want to see next week and the week after, obviously, but for them to have scored, what do you got there, Matty?
Oh, sorry, I just double checked that stat you said. So they've scored more points in the last 4 weeks than they did in the first 10 rounds.
For the last 4 weeks and last 10 rounds. And so, Potter's been coached 3 weeks now? Anyway, 2 to 3 weeks.
2 or 3, yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see, because we always talked about their roster being better than where they were. Maybe Potter's the guy to get them out of where they need to go. And to me, that Bulldogs side, I haven't seen the Bulldogs play like this I honestly can't remember. Probably since Desi was there.
Probably.
Seriously, since Desi was there, I haven't seen the Bulldogs play like that. So really exciting times. Congratulations, Doggies fans. Enjoy it.
I thought there was a good moment in this game just for half time where Matt Burton stood up and he threw the ball at Mitch Moses. The Parramatta were already a bit rattled, but then you just went, fuck, this is exactly where Canterbury want to be.
Yeah, for
Canterbury
sure.
want this to just be a scrap and just to get under their skins. And Parramatta, like, they were already in trouble, but they never recovered after that.
Yeah, really interesting. And I was like waiting for Parra to like click into gear. We'll talk about Parra now.
Big Potter has been coached for those 4 weeks.
Oh,
Wow.
jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. That's look, that's a shining statement for his coaching ability. Points don't just come out of nowhere, you know. 4 weeks, same 10 weeks. Wow. Must have been him like their game plan must have been just different, like really, really different. Wow, that's incredible.
How good was also Avrilo's intercept try?
Oh, mate.
That was
Darius
just-
Boyd all over us.
Darius Boyd, eat your heart out on
Yeah.
Chris Keating. I've been pretty well since Darius did that. I've just been waiting for it to happen again. And a few players have done it and taken the intercept.
Yep.
I think Ponga might have done it once or twice, but to do it and go the lengths,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Mate.
So good. And it just like changed the game on its head. Eels looked like they were crawling back into it. RCG was getting up and aggressive and line breaks and great ball movement from Nathan Brown, I'm pretty sure, to RCG. Then just flipped the game on its head. It's like, that's so deflating, so deflating.
Well, mate, if they score that, like that, I think that was in like the 15th minute or something. If they score that, it's game on all of a sudden.
Yeah. Now, onto the Eels. Look, I thought some of them looked a bit complacent, and I thought that, not complacent, but I just felt like they were trying to push the pass every time they got the ball. They'd be throwing offloads and flick in and cut out balls. And I'm like, where's this come from? Like, this is not the way the Eels play. And I also feel like their origin players, like I thought Regan Campbell-Gillard and Bolo looked fatigued, which is fair enough. Like 2 front rowers in your, in a New South Wales side in one of the fastest games you've played. And they're big bodies too. And also they're both 28, 29. They're not young 21, 22-year-olds. And we looked at so Tino started from the bench. Papali'i started from the bench. Whereas the Eels started Paulo and started Campbell-Gillard. And I think it's a very, it's one thing asking a 7, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to back up. But your front rowers, that's a big ask. And some might say it's 5 days. It's still a tough ask after Origin when you've also, when it was such a fast game. So, look, I still think, now someone messaged me is like, surely you can't say Eels are still a premiership threat. I know it's going to sound crazy. I still think they are. I honestly think that, they're super inconsistent and they're nowhere near where we think they should be, but they also are capable, in my opinion, of going on a 4-game run. And that's all they're going to need, as long as they make the 8, which let's hope they make the 8. But they just need a 4-game run, and I still think they're capable of it.
I'll sort of echo what you said. They just got beat by Canterbury by 30. If they beat Melbourne by 30, I also wouldn't care. It comes down to what they do in those last 4 weeks to me. That's all, like we said a few weeks ago, we just wanted to fast forward 15 weeks with Parramatta. That's crazy with this Eels side. Like, I'm almost more confident that they'd win a game against Melbourne at the moment than they would against a bottom 8 team.
Yeah. And if you're going to use, they got beaten by the Dogs, they can't win a comp. It's like, well, you have to use that. They beat Melbourne Storm, so they can win a comp. You know what I mean? So it kind of evens itself out. And evens itself. What I mean is it's really 50-50. Like, that's how, I'm not sure. They honestly may go on and drop the last 5-6 games of the year, or they literally may go on a run. I still think they have it in them. One moment I did really like, although he had probably one of his quiet games, Dylan Brown, Tavita Pangai Jr. shoots up, hits him, gets up, whatever. Then they go up the other end of the field. Tavita Pangai Jr. picks out Dylan Brown on his own try line, and Dylan Brown chops him on his try line. And I just thought, this is what this kid is capable of athletically. Like, to be able to chop down Tavita Pangai Jr. one-on-one on your own try line, amazing stuff. So for Eels, we're just going to be echoing everyone else's sentiments. Its consistency is a real concern for them, a real concern. Like, it's weird. Like, some part of me says, I'm glad that they had this loss because it gives Brad Arthur a reason to fucking stick a rocket up their ass, and then they go gangbusters. Whereas, like, other years, they've gone so well throughout the season, and in the last 4 or 5 games, they just fall off a cliff. Are we going to see the opposite this year where they go poorly at the start of the or mid-start, and then at the end of the season, they have that massive run like they usually do at the start of seasons? What do you reckon the direction is, Timmy, for the Eels? Yeah,
I mean, you two blokes have summed it up pretty well there. And aside from the complacency, I like the fact that you said maybe this is the rocket up the arse that they needed. Yes, they've lost games to bottom 8 sides that they probably should have won at times this year. This is the big one. Like, it's not a bottom 8 side. It was the team coming last.
Yeah.
It was a rival 30 points from. They were like just flogged. So it's surely that's got, if there is any complacency left after that game in them, that gets it out of their system and they go, all right, because if they're going to win the comp, they have to do it from the top 4. I can't see them going 4 in a row, coming from the 5 to 8th position come finals time. So they really have to get themselves sorted and finish, 3rd or 4th. And we'll see how they bounce back.
Yeah, look, interesting times. To be clear though, that doesn't sit. We're not excusing it. It is a really, really poor performance by the Eels. Like, I think they'll be extremely disappointed with what they rolled out. And I think that, like, if this doesn't shock them into we can't just keep trying to flick passes out and do all that kind of stuff. Every time the Eels do that, they lose games of footy. Every time they come into a game with that super aggressive, all through the forwards, they dominate teams. And I think, like, surely this is a game where they go, okay, we know how to win our games and we know how we lose them. Let's not play like that again. 72% completion. It's not great. It's absolutely not great at all. So hopefully they can bounce back. That is us done for the day, guys. Have you got any announcement, boys?
Yeah, we've got Beers and Breakevens recording tomorrow morning, so that'll drop about Wednesday midday. So if you'd like to join us for that, Supercoach fans, come along.
Sweet. Also, Bloke hoodies, 6 p.m. Wednesday. Set your alarm. Grab a case of Bloke and a bar. We're in every single celebrations. Bottle-O, Porter's Liquor, IGA Plus Liquor in New South Wales, ACT. We're also in every celebration superstore in Queensland. Plus, we've got a store located on our website. And our Bloke MIDI is in every Liquor Legends. It'll be slowly filtering out into every Liquor Legends. As usual, I'll go and fuck myself. Thank you.